Welcome to the podcast, Eye for Talent, the show where we have an eye for talent. I'm your host, Dylan, aka DJ Cereal Sauce. I'm a YouTube content creator, Twitch streamer, and producer. And for the first time, we now have a part two, a follow-up episode. Oh God, I'm already slipping over my words. I'm back.
Dude, do you want to restart? I'm game.
Yeah, run it back. No.
Yeah.
This is fun. This is.
Okay.
I'll accept the scuff. It's fine.
Oh God.
I've never fucked up a recording ever. Never once. No, I'm kidding. No,
Okay.
joining me again is Liam Brown. If you don't remember him, he's a corporate partnerships manager for the Knights esports team. He also has a background in player recruitment, management, sponsorships, and brand building. Probably go watch the last episode if you're curious about some of the build up to that. But as I specified last time, I have way too many questions that I didn't quite have the time to ask last time. So I was like, we'll come back in a few months and we'll get it taken care of. So I'm happy to have you back, Liam. What's up?
Yeah, what's up, Dylan? Great to be here. I've gotten into a lot more projects since the last time we talked, and then obviously Helldivers has come out, so I've been pretty deep into that. Well, listen, man, great to be here. Great to be here. Great to be here for a part two. I think you're my first part two, so I'm very excited.
Oh hell yeah, dude! I'm gonna try and make a good impression for a part two. Much like I always try and make a good impression for people when a part one comes up, because I'm like, oh, if I ruin this person's experience with the podcast and they never want to jump on again, I'm gonna feel terrible.
Yeah. It's not all sunshines and rainbows sometimes.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to have you back. And I'm glad you mentioned Helldivers, actually, just right off the rip, because I was kind of curious about like games that you've been personally playing the last couple of months just for your own enjoyment. Because especially in regards to Helldivers, it's a game that I think is really funny and it's produced a lot of entertaining content. And I have a ton of friends who are in love with the game. And I just, I don't think it's my cup of tea. So I'm just here curious to just let you kind of gush about it a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's actually funny because I was right in between what game should I really get invested into, and it was really an amalgamation of a bunch of different characteristics. So, as an organization, we also one of the things, as I mentioned on the previous podcast, we have like 3 different companies wrapped up into one. As like an esports group, and that kind of makes us different from other organizations that only focus on competitive teams.
Yeah.
But with our tech sphere, I always try to keep a lookout for different developers that are doing stuff that is truly different. Really, really cool stuff. Where's the future of entertainment going, and this and that. And one of those was the finals. Now, shameless plug here. I thought the finals was a really really cool. And people thought games like that and games like Tarkov or player versus environment were going to be the future of esports. Now, we haven't quite seen that just yet, and that's due to a lot of factors. But when I saw the finals come onto the scene, I was just like, this is so cool. Embark Studios, they're such a cool team, such an eclectic mix of like skills that are here. And the game was truly something that's different. It took different classes and it took the ability of destructible environments. I mean, that's something that a lot of people overlook. Destructible environments and the ability to have like an open world where you really can choose your own path, especially in a multiplayer sense, is something that's very overlooked. So I thought this was going to be something really cool. And the day that I was going to get it, my Xbox shut down.
Oh no!
Like shut down. Like we were just talking about this, but it was just like a weird thing. Like it was just like it's taking a minute and a half to like allow a controller to pair to it. It was not reading my terabyte drive that I had all my games saved on. It was just like so weird, and I'm like, man, this sucks. So I'm going around. Then I had heard rumblings that a Helldivers 2 was going to come out. Now, back when I was in college, I used to play Helldivers 1 with my friends. It was so funny. The commentary it makes on ultra nationalism and this militaristic worship, or Starship Troopers in a game sense, like it was funny. And when I saw the kinds of upgrades that it took to that experience, and it wasn't a top-down shooter, it was third person. I was just like, oh, this could be pretty cool. And then I saw all the content being made out of it, and their promotion strategy as an organization that's specifically run and operated by gamers, not corporate people looking to make money off of gamers, who took their talents from the corporate world and kind of applied those same principles that made them so successful in other industries and took that to gaming. I thought that was really interesting. So I looked at Arrowhead and I was just like, well, this is really cool. I like how they're running their um, this title. So I started getting into it, and it was that was like day one, and then it's a game that you can easily hop in on multiple you know, I probably don't need to convince your audience about it, but the cool thing is that it's a lot of replay value for $40, and that's something that I thought was really cool. The only thing that I was on the fence about was like, I was like, I really like playing on controller. Like I really like playing on controller. So I just like I took my headphone charger for like, and I hooked that up to my PC because it's USB-C, and that plugs into an Xbox One Series X controller. So I was just like, okay, all right, now that I can play on a controller because I did it through Steam. I was like, now I can play through controller because I don't have that PlayStation 5 money. You know, this is great. I'm going to do this. So then I just invested some time in it. I found out that a bunch of my friends actually played. And then the first day I played for 8 hours.
Oh God, yeah,
Yeah, I played for 8 hours, and my friends came in and out. I played with like two separate groups of friends because they went to bed and then these guys were still up. You know, so like
yeah.
it's just so much fun, and having a LAN with that kind of game is like insane. I've had friends over here and they like just have their PS5 hooked up like right behind me, and then we're just like screaming back and forth. You know, it's I think that, and as you put it, it's not your cup of tea. So like, why wouldn't something like that be your cup of tea? Are you like more of a fan of other experiences, or like what are some characteristics about it that you don't like?
I think it's this game put me in a weird position because again, it's because most games, if I enjoy consuming content on it, I am fairly certain that I will be interested in playing the game myself. And that's happened
Right.
with a lot of smaller games that I have found recently from like streamers and like long form YouTube content creators that I watch. And so I get into those
Yeah.
games. And yet somehow this is one of those games where I watch the content and I'm like, oh, I think this is funny and this is enjoyable. And I can like when I have a bunch of friends playing it, I'll usually be in a call with them doing my own thing. And they'll be like, we have a stream up in the Discord if you want to watch it. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll watch and see what's happening.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's just that I've never been as big of a fan of these multiplayer, um, like mass, like horde shooter type games because I would classify
Mm.
Helldivers kind of as a horde shooter, but like if you cranked it up to 11.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet, despite that, it's like there's horde shooters that I've enjoyed in the past, namely Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, and also Deep Rock
Mm.
Galactic. And so,
Mm.
honestly, I don't know what it is about the game that just doesn't hit the right notes for me. It could potentially be the third person. It could potentially be a part of it could be the fact that by the time I got into the game, my friends it felt like they had already put 30, 40 hours into the game, which is
Yeah.
definitely not quite that many, but there are certain games that it doesn't quite feel the same trying to go into it as a new player when all of your friends who have the game are already um, significantly more seasoned and it kind of takes away a little bit of the experience.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, you put that really well. I think the for anybody out there that wants to try out a new game that is getting recommendations when that level of skill of your friends has already surpassed you and you're being carried in the game. And with Helldivers, like there's no hiding. There's no
Yeah.
hiding behind there's no hiding. It's like if you can't get perhaps a stratagem down in time, or you can't like you fumble the directional pad so that you can't call in the stratagem. You know, like or like anything. Like it's not a game that is. I'm not going to say it's mean to beginners, but it doesn't hold your hand because the tutorial, spoilers, does not really prepare you for gameplay. Like it prepares you for gameplay against like the Terminids, or I'm a big Warhammer guy, so I call them Tyranids.
Yeah, my
So
friends have the
sorry.
same problem. They always do
Let's go.
that.
I call them Tyranids, and then I call the automatons Men of Iron when I'm with my friends. So um, I think that and also like you've got these developers that are truly gamers, because when people were complaining about the difficulty levels and how they keep dropping new stuff and how the War Master, which is such a cool title, again, Warhammer fan over here, the fact that they call Joel a War Master is just awesome to me. But they were like, like it's getting really hard, like this and that. They said, oh, seems like a skill issue. The fact that they said that, the fact that the CEO came out and said that, the fact that he's been transparent with people since day one, it's just like, listen, we honestly didn't think that it was going to be this popular, so that's why we're experiencing server issues because there's just so many of you. Thank you. Boom. And then he was like that. But then as it goes on, he's just like, listen, don't buy the game yet. Don't
Yeah,
buy
I
the game
remember
yet.
that. That was one of my
Yeah.
favorite interactions. Is he was like, I want you guys to experience this game when it's actually playable. So hold
Yes.
off. We'll
Yeah.
let you know when it comes back, and then you can buy it, and then you can play the game.
I think like the funniest thing is like I was talking to my friends at the gym about it, and like this is why I'm so big of like everybody to work out, because the sense of community within gaming is very much the same in the gym. If you
Yeah.
like talk to the right people, like obviously there's gonna be like the crazy fringe people that are like filming people without their consent in different gyms and bullying and stuff like that. But I've never experienced that in any gym I've ever been to, and I've been to a lot around the world. But I found out a bunch of people from my gym play Helldivers, and now we play like all the time. But one of the things that they were talking about, I was like, yeah, I'm going to try Helldivers for the first time tonight. They're just like, dude, yeah, this was in the middle of like the server crisis, and one of my friends, he is a bodybuilder, but he's going to school for like grad school for computer science. It's the weirdest thing. And
Nice.
I know, and he was just like, dude, I haven't bought it yet because of all the server issues that they've been having. I'm like, oh man. And I started playing. I never had a single issue with like full lobbies or anything like that. I
Oh, dang.
never had any issues. Maybe it was because I was playing until 3 in the morning, but I feel like that's the peak time people are playing. You know,
Yeah,
I
people
can't
probably
even.
also thought the same thing. They were like, if I get on at
Yeah,
3 a.m., no one will be there, but then everyone's actually there.
yeah, they're just like, is this like who's this guy? Like, and my username on Discord matches my mine in Helldivers. It's just flaming duck,
Nice.
because I was like, what are two things that would like look pretty cool? And then I made a flaming duck in like Warhammer like space marine armor. I was like, yeah, it looks. I'm like aces. Let's do it. I'm like, that looks so cool. Let's use that. So I was like, awesome. So that's how I got in. Pretty deep into Helldivers, and like it's a friendly game for people that don't like microtransactions too. I think that more developers need to follow that mode of being gamers first and playing as if they are outside of the company, and that's hard to do. That's really hard to do. You look at some of these guys who are like overworked, underpaid. The game designers, like Blizzard, is a perfect example. I hear like people talk like horror stories about like working there, or Activision, or Activision before, and now Activision Blizzard, or like now EA, and they're used to working in like a fun environment. Then they go into these larger corporate developers. Um, where it's just like hours upon hours upon hours of unpaid labor, and you're just constantly held in this stressful environment, but they can't detract themselves and be gamers for the first time because they can't. Their schedule just won't allow it, or the workload won't allow it. So I think I really hope the industry shifts to more developers like Helldivers, and perhaps for guys like you that don't like that representation of like a horde shooter and they want something else. I hope there's more games that come out with games, or more developers that come out with games that can follow everybody under the sun's experience within gaming. I think my foray into gaming was with horde shooters. Technically,
Oh.
it was Dynasty Warriors Gundam 2
Oh,
on the
okay.
PlayStation 2. So like I'm used to just like, oh, I'm a giant crowd of things I have to destroy. Yeah, let's do it.
I'm on
You
it.
know, yeah, let's do it.
But no, that's an interesting way to, because I am like, nobody who exists on the internet in any kind of gaming sphere would not have heard about that game. Like, you could not
Hmm.
avoid the game because it just came up one day. I was
Yeah.
I was I guess fortunate enough that I had to do or I planned on having a podcast episode that I did with another show. We're going over the like the Sony state of play. And so I just went through the whole
Mm-hmm.
video that they did, and I just wrote down some interesting notes that I thought about the different miscellaneous games that they came up with. And that one came up, and I was like, "Damn, this looks an awful lot like a different game that I had seen a few months ago. That, I don't know, looked like it kind of functioned the same, except it
Yeah.
may have potentially been in first person, but you would also use a lot more like heavy machinery. And I can't think of what it's called.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
that's
pretty sure
interesting.
I think it also has the name Starship in it or some like equivalent of it.
Starfield. No, okay.
No, not quite. No, you're on the right track. But
Star something.
yeah, star insert whatever words you want, and you could probably convince people that it happened.
Oh my
But
god.
no, I watched the state of play and saw that, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I didn't
Yeah.
expect it to drop what felt like a day or two after I wrote down that in my like phone notes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh
Yeah.
shit, it dropped, and all my friends were like, we're gonna get into
No.
Helldivers, and I was like, what? That game came out? What are you talking about?
Yeah. No, that's so interesting. I think if we're talking about like larger public events that we heard happen after the fact, do you remember Taco Bell's menu debut? Remember Taco Bell had an E3 style event debuting their new menu?
I feel like I
Did you
remember
see? You
something
didn't see
similar.
this?
I don't. I think I heard something
Dude,
similar of it. No.
it was like months ago. They held an E3 style event. They YouTube lived it. Dude, check this out. It's so cool. So do like Taco Bell E3 style event or whatever. And it's when they're like, "What's up, guys?" And it was so reminiscent of like early 2000s E3 crowds. Like it was just in a smaller venue, but still crowds of people. And they're like, people are cheering and like, yeah, with the new Crunch Wrap, we're gonna put a cheese disc in it instead of just like taco shell or something like that in there. And they're like, woo! And then they're like, and also coming out is our avocado salsa. And they're like, oh my God. It's like,
Yeah.
it was the coolest thing because I watched the whole thing. Because as far as fast food goes, that's only like 65% actual real food. Taco Bell is definitely number one for me because I'm like, wow, look at this.
Just
Amazing.
because of this E3 style.
I'm like, well, no, like long before it, like it was like that, and like I don't really eat fast food that much, but like when we would as a family, like we would usually go to this combination Taco Bell and Long John Silver's, and like we would always get the same stuff, And I was just like, this is great. And it wasn't until like I got into college because I like my school had a Taco Bell location in, you know, which is like always weird to me, like when fast food restaurants have like physical locations. It's kind of like when you go to a hospital and they get the hospital food is like chicken tenders and like fried food, and I'm like, this is not good for like hospital. Why is there
Yeah.
vending machines with like chocolate bars? Why does every single nurse and doctor that work here smoke cigarettes like a lot?
Yeah, this is ironic.
Yeah, I was like, oh, so do you guys have like a break? And they're like, no, we only have smoking breaks. I'm like, oh, okay. But it's like that. Okay, but then
Jeez.
I got more into Taco Bell. It's weird to say. I'm talking about it like wine. I got more into Taco Bell like in college, and then now it's just like not an obsession, but it's just like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like
Yeah.
I'm always down. You know?
Yeah. So I found the video, by the way.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
on YouTube, and I love how the top comment at the top of the page is from a month ago that just says that battle pass looking sick.
They're trying to push like monthly subscriptions to Taco Bell. It's like you get a random Taco Bell merch or something like that.
Yeah.
I would not rock that. I'm sorry. I don't care how good your streetwear game is. When fast food restaurants try to be relevant, I guess Raising Cane's does a good job of this, aligning themselves with like rappers and stuff. But I remember there was that one weird like slew of different rappers collaborating with like it was Eminem, Snoop Dogg. Um, who's the one guy? He's like curly hair and he has like a bunch of TV shows. He's not
Curly
Dave.
hair and has a bunch of TV shows. He's a rapper?
Yeah, and he's white. That's bad to say, but he's like a
Oh,
white rap.
I know who
Yeah,
there's like a Hulu
there's
series
two
about
of
him or
them.
something.
Yeah, there's two of them, and he's like the one that really likes basketball, and then he meets. Oh my god. Okay, so wait,
Because
hang
there's
on.
Jack Harlow, and I can't think of the other
Jack
guy.
Harlow. That's it.
Oh, okay, I'm
That's
thinking of
it.
him. Okay,
You know,
I thought you were talking
he
about
yeah,
fucking.
he was. Well, the other guy. Um, this is so bad. I don't know any of these rappers because I don't listen to them. Like I don't. And they're like, you don't know what just happened. The latest rapper drama. Like, what was it? J. Cole dropped like a bunch of diss tracks or something like that, and then a bunch of other rappers dropped diss tracks, and this happened like a few weeks ago, and I'm like, I don't know, just sitting over
You're
here
like I'm just
like
playing Helldivers.
I'm like I'm just playing Helldivers with my mic muted because I'm screaming the entire time, and
Oh,
I'm on FaceTime with my little brother, and he's just like because my family came to visit for a little bit, and I got my little brother to play, and he leveled me up from like level 12 to 15 or 16, and he's like he's little, so I'm just like what am I doing wrong here? you know.
You're like,
So he
clearly I'm
was just
missing
like,
something.
I see him going, but I also see him going through missions, and he was getting paired with like level 50 and 60 people that like were doing easy missions just to rack up the samples and the experience points.
Yeah.
And he was just like, oh yeah, and he's just like running around and stuff. It was funny. It was really funny.
Jesus Christ. No, that's just crazy to think about. I do want to watch this Taco Bell E3 thing. I just can't. I don't.
Dude,
I'm
we
just
could do
so
a react.
confused.
Dude, I'll go with you on a Twitch stream. We'll do a reaction stream to it. We do that. We'll do that like tomorrow or something.
That'd be funny, yeah. I
Yeah.
did a stream the other day doing a tier list video, and then realized I ruined it because it was about music, and then I had my Spotify not pulled on the VOD track for Twitch because I'm a clown, so I need to redo it. But
You gotta
this,
redo the whole thing.
yeah,
You're
and it
like,
was like
guys,
two
listen to
hours.
this, and everyone's like, huh? And you're like,
No, yeah, and luckily people could hear it, but then when I went to go back and download the VOD track, because this is music for a game that I really enjoy, and so I'd just be like sitting there for a second, and I'd be like, hold up, but this part I'm just like going absolutely ham, and like had like neck pains when I went to work the next day, but
oh, that's how you know it was like a good jam session.
yeah,
I remember I went
yeah.
to when Machine Gun Kelly the first time when he went on tour with Fallout Boy. I went to his show here in Pittsburgh, and like the next day, from like the middle of my back to like the top of my neck, all the muscles surrounding my spine like hurt because
Oh Jesus,
I was like headbanging so
moshing too
freaking much.
hard.
I was, yeah, no, dude, we weren't even moshing. We sat like up close, but there was like no area to mosh, so
Yeah.
like there was no pit. So I was just like headbanging in the seats, and I was like, "This is so cool. This is what pop punk is." I was like, "What?" And then
Oh.
Fallout Boy came out. I'm like, I don't know any of this. Talking about blissful ignorance to different like musical artists that are relevant, and it's not even like I try. And I'm like, no, I don't listen to that because it's mainstream. I just like I'm down the funk and like hard style route with like, and I got into that like very early on, and then
And
like
Fall Out Boy's
as
over here,
yeah,
the
and
other
Fall
way.
Out Boy is like in a completely different direction. And I'm just like, I don't know, like, I don't know. I'm like looking at myself in the mirror, like, what did you do? Like,
Yeah, what
why are
happened?
why aren't you more into trends?
Yeah, that's kind of like I don't know. Sometimes I tell people that there's certain things I don't listen to because it's mainstream, but I don't mean that to sound like a hipster. I think I mean that because
The
if
wire rim glasses isn't doing you any favors, buddy.
yeah,
I'm
well, I
sorry.
also had these. I got these wire when how old was I when I had these? Because I haven't gone to the eye doctor in a few years because my prescription hasn't changed in like ever. Like whenever I go to the eye
How?
doctor, they're like it was off by like the smallest unit of measure possible, whatever. So I haven't done it in a little while.
Oh my God.
It seems to be doing me well. I should because then I'll end up down the route of my parents of not being able to see well. But regardless of the fact, I think it's that like if there's a thing that I listen to, if I like it, if I listen to it and I'm like this sounds good, but I recognize that it's so mainstream to the point where it seems to be popping up on every other like Instagram or TikTok video that I watch. I'm like I don't want to do that because I don't want people to think that I like it just because it's popular.
Yeah,
So it's
because
a weird
then
it's a weird situation.
then you lose because you're one of those people that's like, yeah, I found this song from TikTok, and they're like, you found this from TikTok, ew, and I'm like, oh my God, that's how most people find these songs, dude. Don't
Yeah.
even.
Meanwhile, there's like a primarily well like there's a metal band that I found through TikTok. Mostly, I think it showed up on my feed because they tried to make a name for themselves by being different because their main lead singer is black, and I was like, oh, that's cool.
Ah, I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and so I started listening to them when they were like surprisingly actually pretty small, and then I don't know what happened, but they went on a few tours and they made a few more videos, and now they're at like almost 1 million monthly listeners, and I was like,
I
shit,
know.
okay.
Yeah, it's just like, well, now I can't listen to you because
No,
then
no,
everyone's gonna think that I wasn't here from the get
no,
go.
no, no. Luckily, it doesn't. The rabbit hole doesn't go that, or the obsession doesn't go that far. But it's usually
Oh,
like
okay, good.
you know. But
Dude, rock,
regardless,
yeah, rock now has just like rock metal. I'm sorry to any of the listeners who are like really, really like, metal is this and rock is this, but that's soft rock. This is real rock, like that kind of thing. I'm sorry about this, guy. I'm not that knowledgeable. I still listen to 3 Days Grace, their early 2000s stuff, because early 2000s rock to me was like the best. That's every generation is going to say that. But like rock has just been like so crazy. I live in a city where the music scene here, as far as the talent is crazy, because we have Stage AE like right over here, and they're hosting like a different band or a different artist like every day, every night of the week. It's
yeah,
crazy. So like there's always some kind of cool concert going on, and like We had Kane Brown here like a few weeks ago, and like he apparently was like huge. I didn't even know about it. Literally, Drake came into town and performed. I didn't know. Now hang on. Drake came. Drake, and I didn't know. I just didn't know, dude. I didn't even know Taylor Swift was coming to Pittsburgh until like the day of, and I'm like, there's quite a lot of traffic here. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, there's not.
you're like, yeah,
I'm
I
like,
wonder what's
there's
happening.
yeah, I'm like, there's a lot of. I'm like, I live in a completely different area, and there's still like a ton of traffic. And I'm like, oh, usually there's not that many cars coming out of that hotel because that's just like a less busy hotel, and there was like packed. So I'm just like, man. And then I just look. I'm looking at videos on like Snapchat map of like the venue, and I'm like, whoa, like that area is like red. And I'm like, I click on it. And there's people outside of the stadium listening to Taylor Swift, and they're like, "Oh my god, it's so cool."
You're like,
God,
oh, I understand now.
yeah, I mean, I kind of get it. It's not till I like, because it's not till I like leave the house that I actually like learn about stuff. Or honestly, like a lot of Snapchat Maps. Snapchat Maps has definitely helped me with like a lot of stuff. I remember when Snapchat Map first came out, or Snap Map. Sorry for anybody who thinks I'm an old man for calling it Snapchat Maps, not Snap Maps. Sorry, but I remember that came out, and all of these rich kids from Dubai and like all over Saudi Arabia started just posting like the Middle East posts the most on any social media platform. I don't care what anybody says. Them and people like within the region of like Southeast Asia and India, because they post a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at these guys on like yachts and stuff like that, and I'm just like, man, that's crazy. That's crazy. And then I just go over and then I just feel bad about myself because I'm like, man, I'm not just one of these like regular people that's posting like tons of videos and stuff like that, you know? I'm just like, wow, look at that. There's my foray into you know, trying to understand trends and then failing miserably.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody.
You're like, yeah, you're like, well, I tried my best. As long as I don't, you like, if I miss it, I can chalk it up to not always being hip, I suppose.
Literally, yeah, it's literally like, I tried my best. I'm just
Yeah.
like, this stuff's too exhausting. I'll play Helldivers, go to the gym, and stay in esports. That's my lane.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then that's fair. But I mean, like other than Helldivers, what are other things that you've been playing for your own enjoyment as of recent?
Well, I got back into the old High Moon Studios games, Transformers: Fall of Cybertron and War for Cybertron. I started playing. I don't know if your audience like remembers these, but these were the best Transformers games. And then I got really really good deep into Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. Um, I understand that these are older games, guys, but these were still like these crafted so much because Star Wars: The Force Unleashed was arguably one of the best Star Wars games we ever got because Disney shut down the Darth Maul video game, so we'll never get that, and they also shut down the Jango Fett game that we never got, 1313, R.I.P. And the Transformers High Moon Studios got bought out by a larger developer. I can't remember. I think it was Activision bought them out or something like that. But
Probably.
yeah, I think it was Activision Blizzard bought them out. But we were supposed to get a third Transformers game, and my way of paying homage to them is just like um, playing these two old Transformers games. Transformers Devastation was pretty good, but I haven't really played it because I'm not as good as my little brother on like on the combinations, and that sounds crazy, but like I'm really not as good as him when it comes to that game. He's like that guy has got either a competitive career in Minecraft or in any fighting game because the way he's able to use his tiny hands to navigate the controller and string together these combos, and I'm struggling like it's insane. And he's beat bosses on different difficulties in that game that I have not been able to even scratch the surface of. But the one that I'm really waiting for is Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2.
Oh yeah,
And
somebody was telling me
yeah,
about that.
yeah. This is last time. And big whoop. I don't think it has not released yet. Double check. Has it? Wait, did it?
Let me
I don't think it
see.
has. Let me open up my Steam. Let me open up my Steam. This is the first time I've
Planned
ever.
release date September 9th, 2024.
They pushed it back like so many times. I'm like, dude, just. But then again, I would complain if like they release something
And it
unpolished. But
sucked.
yeah, like that one's really really gonna be cool because it's that actor. Um, hang on. Who's the actor? Space Marine.
Oh, this is one of my
True.
favorite parts is when people have to Google stuff in the middle of a show. It's like, hold on,
I
immersion
I
break.
feel I feel so bad. Like I should know this because here's the thing. This actor Clive Standen was also in he's really centered himself. Unfortunately, we go after typecasting. The guy is 6'2", looks great in a beard. So as a result, he's been lodged into a lot of Viking movies and Viking TV series.
Yeah, it looks
He
like
was
it.
in he was in the Vikings TV show on History Channel. It's like he got the brother to the main character ended up was a really big player in the TV show like later on. So, but I remember when he released the clip of him being, he was going to be Captain Titus, and he was just like, like when I go into space, I'm going to need more than just an axe. And he pulls out a chain sword, like in Warhammer, and everyone's like, well, the space wolves have been around a lot longer or like just as long. So why wouldn't you just be like a space wolf? Because they're basically space Vikings. Like why wouldn't you just do that? But everybody likes space wolves. So like, but also like the fact that we only get ultramarine like games where we get played with ultramarines. I was on another podcast a few weeks ago, and the guy was asking, he was just like, if you had like money is no object and you had unlimited amount of time, like what's the game that you would create? And I would create a Warhammer game that is true to the novels. And my biggest thing is that I would only hire people that have worked on the books because
Yeah, that
that's where
makes
everybody
sense.
gets. Yeah, everybody gets. But now here's the thing that makes sense on the surface. See, now here's the thing that makes sense on the surface. But how many times have Marvel writers and studio execs from Disney who make the Marvel movies talked at length and admitting multiple times that they've never read the comics? How many
Oh yeah, that's a
times
good point.
exactly? How many times have people who make the Star Wars movies or the Star Wars series admitted multiple times that they never read the source material? They never read anything from Legends. They never played any of the games. They might have watched some of the old movies. How many times? See, that makes sense to normal people. But when you get these larger groups who just they what is it, they disneyfy, I think this is a good term, they disneyfy everything, dumb it down so that everybody likes it, but the hardcore, remember when Halo came out, they're just
Oh
like,
yeah, the
in
show?
order
Or you mean like
yeah,
just yeah.
the show, they're like, in order to tell this story we had to take Chief's helmet off, and I'm like, no you didn't.
No, you didn't. Have you seen how long the
Yeah,
franchise has been going? They've been able to do
I
it.
know.
You're no,
They're like,
you are not built different.
the amount, yeah, exactly. The amount of these like studios that think that they're built different, like when they're, or even the Fallout show. The Fallout show openly said multiple times the studio execs are like, we didn't make a show for Fallout fans, and I'm like, are we supposed to like that?
Yeah,
You know, like
who do you think is gonna watch this fucking thing now?
exactly. So now it's just like, oh, you alienated the niche group of people that put this on the map, and now what? Everyone's going to roast this in the thing. Nobody's going to watch it. If anything, they're going to pirate it just because they're curious.
Yeah,
So like, of course, and like, of course, and I'm not condoning that. It's just that's the
it's
reality.
gonna happen.
Yeah, and it sucks, but stop making products that people friggin' hate. Like as we go into the hypothetical scenario of me making a Warhammer game, like it would be something that's true to the novels, as dark and gritty and powerful as it was intended. There's a reason Warhammer is called the king of nerd stuff and the end stages, or it's also been around since the 70s. I'm pretty sure it's been around since like the early or late 70s,
Something like that. Yeah.
and yeah, and like it's just always been there. And sure, the lore has like changed certain times. It's okay, but like most of the main focus stays. And if I was going to make something like that, it would have to be only from the source material. But then that would make that that probably make too much sense. Who knows?
It'd
Like
make too much sense to take inspiration from the thing that makes it a good series.
yeah, when we're making another iteration of the thing, why would we use other parts of the thing to make the thing? I don't know. It's too crazy to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make
Ugh,
sense.
not at all.
Make a where I was like, make another Spider-Man movie without Spider-Man in it. They keep making like all these fucking series, and they're trying to connect it into the Spider-Man universe, and then they just don't
Yeah,
even make you give a shit about it because they only tangentially make a reference to the character, if that.
I
It's
know, and
annoying.
they
It's
like
just
it really sucks with like Spider-Man because they're just like, first off, let's take Peter Parker, who is a kid, and they're like, let's make his life the worst thing ever. It's just like let's issue a challenge to Spider-Man writers. Let's make Peter Parker's life like normal. Nah, can't do it. Can't
Terrible.
do it, bro. It's just like let's make Mary Jane have an affair with with Osborn, and they have a kid together. Oh, okay. So not only did she cheat on Harry, it's like not only did she cheat on Peter, it's this. Oh, let's make it so that the first time that Black Cat sees Peter Parker's face, she's like, "Oh, you're disgusting and you're a child." Oh, that's cool. Let's kill the other women that he's like ever loved. Let's make his life a living hell. And then they go on to it's just like what is going on? Then they go on to be like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna fizzle Peter Parker out of existence." And this, like, they came more public with this, but I remember like years ago when they killed Peter Parker, they brought in Miles Morales, and then they started putting Captain Marvel as like the pilot character. Now here's the thing: when Captain Marvel came out. Not only was she so unrelatable of a character, not only was she insanely rude to OG characters in every comic that she was ever in, not only that, but she was also the lowest selling Marvel character to comic book stores. So that isn't even private sale. That's sold to comic book stores.
Yeah.
So then, like, I remember when that was happening like years ago, and then now they've just gotten more public with like, oh, okay, since like Spider Verse has been really really popular, and also the Spider-Man games most recently on PlayStation 5, like we're fizzling Peter Parker out of future projects, so we're going to focus solely on Miles. And I'm like, what? Oh, like you're gonna take Spider-Man out of Spider-Man? Like,
Give him back.
you can't like yeah. I'm like, geez, like sell him off to another studio that'll actually like respect him. Sell him to DC for all I care. And, yeah, sure, their movies suck, but their live action movies suck, but their other movies are like pretty good. Some of the like Batman Under the Red Hood is still regarded to me as like one of the best, most faithful iterations of Batman as a detective, and also just Jason Todd as Jason Todd.
Yeah.
So there's my boom, one rant
Yeah.
done for today.
But
Sorry.
but that all that was to point to the fact of like, I don't know. Sometimes if things are popular enough, like not only just within the obviously the niche that they exist in, but within the general like overarching like the society that looks in on them and sees them and whatnot. It's like sometimes you just do not pay your characters a lot of respect. You don't pay your franchises a lot of respect, and
Oh,
so
absolutely,
it'd be very. I could
absolutely.
imagine now. You're like, well, if I wanted to execute this hypothetical scenario of making the perfect ish Warhammer game,
Yeah, it's
the
like
writers
I
very
would
well
go.
could fuck it up.
Exactly. Like like if I was gonna make a Netflix, dare I say, a Netflix series. Hang on. If I was gonna make a Netflix series about a historical time period, the first thing I would do is consult people who are experts on that time period, and
Yeah,
then I would the next thing I would do is find people from that geographic area that to either play those characters, but also to consult on the roles and stuff like that. Like if I wanted to make um, God forbid I made an A24 film. But you remember Midsummer? Like they actually went and they got like I believe they got like the traditional dress and like the clothes and like stuff like that. That would be authentic to that area. Like if I was gonna make a movie about Estonian I don't know, like Estonian villages. I'm not going to hire like guys from Arizona and Texas to play like these characters,
yeah,
like it wouldn't make sense. Uh, anyway.
yeah. Especially when you consider that to large budget studios, money probably isn't an object that they need to really be concerning themselves with. But
Hmm. Hmm.
there's a very much larger overarching reason why that happens that everybody understands, so we don't need to tell them.
Yeah, it's like the the optics of the truth kind of go out the window when you're playing with like not only demand of of your future fans, but like people adjacent of those fans,
Yeah.
the word of mouth, the reputation that that project is going to have. And it's just like people lose their minds when they start to make these projects. It's actually like insane. I remember like and don't call me a Call of Duty fan, but I remember even I heard about the controversies around like, oh, in order to get these achievements, or oh, in order to get these weapons in the game, you have to do math equations just to like accelerate in the game. That I thought was like one of the craziest things, because they just repeatedly did the rinse and repeat model with their existing IP of just like making a cooler game each time, focusing on the multiplayer, not necessarily caring a lot about the campaign. That's okay, because you have the juice to do so as Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Call of Duty, but it's just like it's just gotten so poor of a reception by the community. Even if you've got Tim the Tatman of Doctor Disrespect laughing about your game negatively, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good, and it's their job to be funny and roast, but like still.
But not when it's towards the thing that gives them the success that they have, and
Exactly.
especially in modern times when you have an operator in the game that has a Tim the Tatman skin. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, you might
Mm-hmm.
want to show a little bit more respect if you're gonna put him in your game. Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
either way, all that was to be said. So if we go back up the tangent rabbit hole that we went in, there's nothing
We
wrong
started
with
with
playing those
Helldivers.
games. Yeah, we started with Helldivers, but then we continued into like games that you have been getting into recently. Mostly games that are a bit more nostalgic in a
Mm-hmm.
sense of like
Mm-hmm.
these are games I used to play many years ago. There's nothing wrong with that. We all go back and
Yeah.
do that. My most
It's
recent
just
example
like,
is like I went back and I was like, Plants vs Zombies is $5 on Steam, so I went and I played it, and I've just been like playing a couple of hours
is
every
that
day.
like the newer one that's like 3D and like is almost battle royale esque, or is it like the older
I'm talking about
ones
like the
that were
first,
like?
like the Plants vs Zombies Game of the Year edition, the
Oh.
first game.
Oh
It was five
wow.
dollars. It was
Yeah.
like
Oh wow,
I
dude.
was like,
I mean, that's almost like reminiscent of like Balloon's tower defense.
yeah, I've been into
The
that too.
old
Me and
that.
my buddies have been playing a
Yeah,
lot of that too.
that's insane. Can you imagine hosting like a LAN party on like Alienware PCs, or like with NVIDIA drives, and you're just like, yeah, what are we gonna do? Minecraft? No, we're gonna do Plants vs Zombies, the original one. They're like, oh,
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's like that meme where I spent my student loan money on a 4080 Ti. I'm going to use it to play classic RuneScape.
yeah. Oh my god.
But
I remember playing RuneScape one time when we were like really little. This is when in my hometown we had a gaming cafe. I only went like
oh,
once for my friend's birthday, and the way they managed their finances and stuff like that led to them shutting down.
damn.
But they were around like a while. Yeah, I know, right? Like that's always how it goes. And like, but um, passion will only lead you so far. You got to understand the processes involved in keeping that passion alive, and that's what I think that they didn't do.
Yeah.
So we would go. We went for my friend's birthday, and I was like just hopping different stations. Like I was playing the Obi-Wan Xbox game, and like that was like a lot of fun. And then I got really confused, and then I moved over to RuneScape with like some of my friends, and I played on his account. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then I moved on to another thing. Looking back now, like considering the impact that RuneScape had, and like to a greater degree as one of the foundational MMORPGs of at least our generation.
Yeah.
It's just like it's so insane. I would if I could go back, I would have definitely put like an extra at least 10 minutes just trying to figure out the systems and like understanding the game more.
Yeah.
Because like I played it for a little bit, and like as kids we just like go looking for stuff that's flashy. So I went right over to Halo instead. At the same but can you blame me? Like for the time, like RuneScape was definitely a thinking game, and I'm still not smart enough to understand it.
Yeah,
You
especially
know?
like depending on that when that rough time frame would have happened, you're like, hey, the Halo games that are being played on here are good. Could you believe it?
Yeah, yeah. And I was just like, I could either go to that or to RuneScape, which like had not the best graphics, and it was like a top down, and like I'm just like looking for stuff,
You
but
have to
like
be
there's even
like having a minor in economy to to
yeah,
understand the
dude,
fucking
exactly.
game.
Yeah, and you're just like, I have to also understand trade and trade negotiation, because I'm playing like there's other live players here who want perhaps some of the objects that I have, but like, I don't want to give those away. Like, it's
Yeah.
like all these like different things. It's like, so we're dealing with like trade, sales, economics, like all within a game. No, I'm gonna go play
I'm
Halo.
gonna go play Halo. Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
So I definitely don't. I mean, that's. I mean, I probably would have done. If anything, I almost probably would have. I don't know. I think depending on how old I would have theoretically been if I was in a situation like that, I think I probably wouldn't have strayed away from it. Mostly because a
Mm.
lot of the games that I played, even going into like my early teenage years, were like 8-bit, 16-bit stuff. Because I was still playing a lot of games from when I was younger. Because I had been playing
Mhm.
games for a fair bit since that point. But yeah, I don't. I definitely don't blame you for being like, I don't want to have to understand money management, resource management,
Yeah,
bartering.
it's like, and it's like even now we go into some of that, and like now those are like that's some of the stuff that we find thrilling or challenging. It's just like wow, like I'm driven to the edge. Now, obviously, I'm not saying like wow, like I love balancing my budget. I'm just like, whoa, this is so cool. It's like, but in for that those concepts personified, like of course, since I'm playing it right now with Helldivers, like there's constant resource management going on there. I'm checking my ammo, my different stims, like stuff like that that's going on in the game. My health. How many times can I die before I throw this controller across the room? Like things like that.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Yeah. And then
It's
on
interesting. It.
an even more monotonous level, you have like a lot of Twitch right now is getting into supermarket simulator. They're like, yes, I would love to run a
I know.
grocery store. Epic.
I remember when we would use those to practice in my econ classes. Like I had to run, dude. You have no idea. I had to run. I had to run the store. I had to run the storefront and everything like that. But I also had to run advertising for the store, and I had to put up billboards around the city and like manage those. And it was a really fun. It was really fun, especially because like my partner in the project was one of those kids that just didn't do work, so I just kind of
Damn.
had to like figure this entire thing out on my own.
Yeah.
And it was like a simulator from like the late 90s while we were using it in the classroom. It was that, and I thought that was like really cool. Then I remember when VR tech was really blowing up, when this was when content creators like Cerberus Arms or like Node, who were secretly advertising for these games, but we didn't know it as kids. So they would do like, oh, we're going to check out this VR game right now. And what's funny about Node is that Node was created by a couple of these sketch content creators that are really like Corridor Digital and Freddie W. Freddie W ended up going on to found Rocket Jump Studios, and that studio actually made one of my biggest introductions to esports called VGHS, called Video Game High School.
Oh yeah.
Highly recommend. Yeah, highly recommend anybody watch it. It used to be free. I think you have to pay now, but like we all know how to get around that paywall. But um, I was watching that, and we were watching Node, and I didn't come out until like years later, but Node was actually advertising, like different game developers would contact them and have them advertise their games by like, oh, we just want you guys to like check out our game and play it for like over the course of like a 10-minute video. And then us as the viewer, like, wow, this is so cool. I hope they make more videos about it. That was buzz and press for them.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
smart.
remember when there's a one VR game where you get to play as in different simulations for like a cafe or like a restaurant and things like that, and you get to like assemble orders, but it's in a VR format, so it's pretty cool. And the
Yeah.
story of it is you are doing what humans, you are going to have the human experience because you're a robot and you have to get trained on what humans did.
Yeah.
And like I played those games too because we had talk about this later, but I for a summer I lived in VR, and I got to play these games, and it was so much fun. So, but it's really interesting now seeing those Twitch streamers who have done to death the traditional games, such as Valorant, Call of Duty, all these other things. So now they're looking to other stuff to like really spice up their content. I think
Yeah.
that's really interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's fun, especially looking into like the fact like how the technology is adapting. Because like I have a buddy
Oh
right now
yeah.
who's in computer science in
Hmm.
college, and the specific area that he kind of delves in mostly, from what I understand, is like research into AR and VR. And
Yeah.
so he gets to do
Yeah.
a lot of, I guess, because they have like a more fleshed out thing, like program for that at his college. They have like a whole room that is structured in a way for for the devices that they use to be able to like
That's so cool.
accurately like predict space and like distance and whatnot. And
Hmm.
I was actually, one of my friends recently messaged me on Discord and he was like, "Hey, you probably should ask him about what that whole thing is because that would probably be really cool." And I was like, "Yeah, I would. I just have no fucking clue like about any of it. Like I don't know what's happening, so I wouldn't even know where to
Yeah,
begin to ask him." But I think the concept of what, especially of what he's explained to us, is really cool, and it's
yeah.
especially cool to see how that then will get used in perpetuity to make VR games and AR experiences in general cooler.
Yeah, I mean, like for the longest time, the immersion into VR was kind of like, okay, well, obviously I'm in the game, but as far as movement in the game, that is going to take the place of either using the analog stick on the VR controller or point and click and I teleport to those locations. But now, two companies that I saw were like really investing in the immersion, Virtuix because they created an omnidirectional treadmill,
I remember seeing
which
about
made
that.
and but after like this was like a month or two ago, Disney Tech. I didn't even know Disney had it. I mean like it's kind of naive to think like a company that big wouldn't have like different departments related to tech innovation stuff like that. But Disney Technology developed this carpet which allows you to like I could walk over there, but I'm still going to get rolled back to the center of this carpet.
Oh, so it
So the
helps keep you
implication
centered essentially.
Exactly, exactly. So the implication there is that if I were to hook a VR headset up to this, I could walk, run, and stuff like that without having to be strapped in to something like a Virtuix treadmill. I could just put it out on my carpet, and theoretically, I could just like walk around and be in the game and not have to worry about bumping into tables and chairs and stuff like that because I'm gonna get put right back to like the thing. Obviously, it's like early concept, and it's another company that put, an E3 style event just to show off like what they were doing. But like now we have stuff like that that's possible. Another like shameless thing is like plug for me is like Sandbox VR, and like a lot of these different VR companies that allow people to have like a virtual reality within a spaced out environment and not have to like, and they're able to walk and run in the game because they like Sandbox, they produce a lot of their own games too, which
Hmm.
is pretty cool. So
Yeah.
you can run around and stuff in it, and they have like fans and like heaters to like make you feel like you're getting shot by a flamethrower or like that. Like there's a dragon is flying away next to you, and I've gone like there was a period of time where I went like once a week, or like I went like a couple of times a week, and they were like, you again. They're just like, oh god. They're like, oh, this guy.
Ah,
And
he's
I'm going
back.
with different people. I'm going with different people, but I'm just like, yeah, this is so cool. And I felt like the one guy who's like, who's definitely been to that restaurant before, and he takes you to that restaurant, and it's just like, you just have to do this thing because this is like really cool. And it's just like, oh, you're not going to order, I'm going to order for you because I know the menu. Because that's what I felt like when I was going like with my friends and stuff like that. But
That's
yeah,
funny.
that no, that's really cool. I've seen like in competitive VR, people will have like different environments and obstacle courses and rooms set up so that they can compete. So I'm excited to see VR become a lot more accessible to people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm also hoping for it to eventually be a thing because I don't know how many people are actually into VR as a whole concept. Because I look at it and I'm like, this feels a little gimmicky. I can
Hmm.
understand the appeal of it, but for me personally, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm driving with it too much per se. But I guess
Yeah,
the hope
yeah,
is that the that's kind of I guess why I specified the expansion of the VR and AR experiences is to just expand the outreach of how many people would actually care about the thing or give them
yeah.
more reasons to use a headset that they spent two, three, $400 on.
Yeah, the player base for some of these like multiplayer VR games is like still so low, And I remember when the statistic came out that despite the millions of dollars of investment that we saw from like Meta and like Oculus and stuff like that into promotion, sales of VR headsets went down by a couple percentage points, or by a couple percentage.
Yeah.
Um, and what are you going to do there? Like that's not good.
Yeah.
The return is like really not matching up. So I think like the startup costs and like the player base, the costs associated is definitely going to be affecting the player base and also the quality of games that we're getting. Like that's also going to be like a huge thing.
Yeah. And also I guess the last thing I can think about with it, because this is a thing my buddy brings up a lot, because he has I don't remember which one he has, but he has one of the major brands for the headsets, and he was like, he was trying to help our buddy decide which one he wants to pick, and he was like, you should go with this one that I have because this other one that you're looking at is really bad at being compatible with other things that we know you already
Yeah.
have. So I'm sure
Hmm.
once they kind of tweak those issues and figure out how to handle those and make stuff more interconnected so it doesn't feel like you buy this brand of VR headset and it can only work with this thing, and you better hope that this thing has good things that you can use it with.
Yeah, that crossplay um, is definitely like a huge issue now. I think, I like, even like with Fortnite and stuff like that, like that's one of the things that made them so successful is the fact that like crossplay was enabled after a while, and it allowed more people to engage in the same experience. That connectivity, despite the differences, or like despite the despite the competition that exists between those, like those brands, like that's, I feel like that still needs to happen, if people are or any game really is to be successful with in the current landscape of things.
Yeah, exactly. Being
You know,
entirely exclusive does not make people like you very
doesn't
much.
yeah, it doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, especially if you're not even going to make those exclusive things to you like worthwhile enough, or you're not going to provide enough of them to make somebody care about getting it.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
um, so yeah, I'm happy to see that, like, experiences that I guess the simplest thing is like the fact that I can now experience things that I would otherwise be forced to go get a PlayStation 4. I can now experience some of them on a PC. I still have a PlayStation back here for the record. I can't
Yeah. Yeah.
point to it
Yeah. I see it.
properly, but the fact that I didn't nowadays, if I didn't have it, I wouldn't have to go and get one theoretically for some of those
Mhm,
experiences that I
mhm.
want. So I think it's a good step that we're moving towards.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
But let's see here. So I guess I'm curious. What do you think makes you and your general approach to like managing people, managing projects, managing anything? What do you think makes you specifically very good and very successful at doing those tasks?
I think because of I'm willing to go through the same hand holding that I never got, and what I wish I received. Whether it's learning different processes that made me successful with outreach, whether it's helping with memorization or having materials that uh, weren't built, so I built them, and then sharing that with the person and going through them with each step. Whether whether it's like learning software that I wasn't able to learn specific, massively helpful time saving tricks until months into using them. I think I'm very willing to go through the hand holding with anybody. I think that the thing that I dislike is when people don't have follow up questions.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like, listen, I know you do, and I'm willing to help here. Like I've trained like I've trained like some of my old coworkers or people on different processes. I've trained in the gym some of our old Rocket League and Madden players and coaches. And if they're experts in a certain thing, but not in this thing, so I'm willing to answer the questions there.
yeah.
So um, that I'm willing to go through the steps that I never received. I think is probably one of my best measurements of success, or how I've been able to excel.
I love that. I love that so much because I tend to find myself falling into the same position at my current job, which is that like
Yeah.
to not get into too many specifics because I'm an account manager at the place that I work at.
Mhm.
When I started, I was on the front desk. I was in the front desk like customer support type, and we had four account managers, and then one of them who was responsible for fewer accounts than the other three, but would also manage those three to make like basically being their supervisor.
Mhm.
Um, and then fairly early on into my job, one of them left. And
Mm.
then a year into my job, another one left. And then
Mm.
when that person left, they promoted me to being a junior account manager. And then a third one left. And so it was one guy's job to train me and another guy. That guy unfortunately did not have the time to fully train me before the workload caught back up to him and he got overstressed and he left. So then it was my
Mm.
job with 50% of his resources to try and train other people. So I was like in a bit of a tough spot at that point. So then when we
Jeez.
finally hired new account managers and found a person to backfill my position in the customer support role, because keep in mind I was
Mm.
also doing that because we didn't have a person yet. By that point, I had learned an absurd amount where I was. A lot of time saving
Mm-hmm.
tricks, a lot of things to help find something if you're not given the full amount of information. So you can just search for something that contains these parameters, for example. And now, anytime somebody new comes into the building, I'm the one who trains them on it because I know the most about it and because I know those
Yeah.
things. And whenever we have a new client that comes on, even if I'm not responsible for managing their account, they'll probably bring me on for one of the meetings to train them on our systems because I
Mm-hmm.
just know everything. and
Yeah.
and and sometimes it gets to a point where I'm like, hey, I recognize this might not be helpful for you, but I'm going to show you how to do it so that if it does come up and you happen to remember how to do it, then you can do it. And so
Yeah.
that's a thing that I'd like to impart on other people is try and enable people to be better than what I was given, or to just enable people to be in a better spot than where I may end up being when I leave.
Yeah. And I that's insane of the situation you were put into, um, to the situation that you're in now, and it almost makes me wonder, like, would you rather have had the hard, almost the hard learning path where you made mistakes, you were faced with like crazy odds against you, or would you have rather had your hand held in this? Because if I, knowing what I know now, I almost am happy with the path that I had to get to this point, because it allowed me to learn so much faster because I was under pressure from external parties or internal parties, who needed results now, not later.
Oh yeah,
You know,
no,
so
exactly.
what are some of your thoughts on that? You know, like, would you have rather had somebody who was able to train you all the way, or do you feel like you would have learned faster your current path?
Honestly, weirdly enough, I think the best way that I learn in the modern day is a hybrid of both, where
Mm,
somebody gives me the fundamentals of understanding, like, these are the core things you need to make sure you do properly. Just
yeah,
like laying out a list. These are the things you have to do, and then they quickly go through and they show me how it needs to be done. Whether it be in their own,
yeah,
whether it be showing me the way that they do it, or just showing me how it is just done in general, and then
love
just
that.
letting me roam free and just letting me figure out how I want to handle it.
Yeah,
Um, Although I suppose then by that point it's like I still do have them as a resource if I don't know how to do something and I go back and I ask them how to do it. But I guess in
yep,
general I'm just like a big fan of learning through experience because it helps me understand how to do things my own way that makes it more efficient. Because I
yeah,
have a bunch of random little time saving things that I do in all parts of my job, as we all do. But the problem is that if I want to explain a very tedious task to somebody who will now be doing it alongside me or taking over my place in doing it, I don't want them to have to deal with doing it the tedious, like the really, really long and tedious way, because then that
yep,
might make them be like, I don't want to fucking do this. This is annoying. The reason I'm okay with doing those things is because I just get them done so fast. I get them done, I get them out of the way. But I can't
mhm,
really explain to them every little micro, I guess like micro time saving thing that I do that helps to make those things get done faster.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, but
Yeah, I like that. I like the hybrid of both. I think that there has to be some kind of emphasis though on making mistakes,
yeah,
because I've like I've made a lot of mistakes with the softwares that we've used, so that's why I know how to use them a lot better. I've made mistakes with like phrasing of communications and how best to go about certain situations, and I think that has what helped me learn, and maybe even like uh getting like being told by your superiors that the way you did something was very incorrect, but not getting the oh, you see, well, I wouldn't have done that, just more getting the why would you do that, like why would you do that way. It's just like, well, I thought this. It's like, no, that's insanely incorrect. And like sometimes those lessons really really stick, but as much of a cop out as it seems, like those are very situational, and it's situational in that hybrid fluid model is probably what's best. It's just that it doesn't look like you and I were put in that position.
yeah,
we,
but
we can't speak I can't speak for experience for like, oh yeah, a hybrid model would work best, like, 'cause I was never given that.
yeah, exactly. No, and I mean, I think I don't know. In general, I think if I had to teeter on one side, I would prefer to just go and figure out how to do it myself. Insofar
Mm-hmm.
as I am not being as insofar as I am not having to do something entirely on my own that if I fuck up will catastrophically ruin something. Cuz
Yeah, yeah.
cuz that's happened maybe once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a situation where I was like, I should have gone to somebody to ask him about it. But the good news is that most of the time, somebody tells me to do something, I go and figure out how to best approach it in a way that works for me.
Mm-hmm.
If something comes up and I'm like, I know how this, I know objectively what needs to, like, the best example is like, if I have to email somebody about a very tough situation, I'm like, I know exactly what I need to communicate to them. I need to know, I know what I need to address. I know all these things. Now I just need to make sure that I have somebody watching over to make sure that I don't say it incorrectly. Because if I say it
Yeah.
incorrectly, I do run the risk of them leaving.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The
So
stakes can't be too high with somebody that is like either new or just like insanely new. Like I don't know. I wouldn't expect a baby to like balance a budget for a Fortune 100 company, you know. So like, it's we can't expect like those kinds of stakes for other people as they come into the space. But a lot more people are expected to wear many different hats and to have a variety of skills as they go into many different opportunities.
yeah,
More and more companies are asking people to have a variety of skills. Um, that's definitely like the industry standard as I've seen it.
yeah, and there's like a an infinite number of reasons why that could be the case. I think one of my favorites is the idea that if you are tasked with only doing one thing, then your place of employment, if you're working in like a traditional company, they might not have anything for you to do on a day, and
Yeah.
then what?
Yeah.
So
Oh, absolutely.
yeah. So in
Yeah.
my case, it's good that I literally take. I mean, I have my hands in every single part of the company. It's
Hmm.
except for like
Hmm.
obviously upper management, duh. But like it's like working front desk support, working in account management, working in like our kitting, working in some like billing and accounts receivable or account, I think it's accounts receivable type stuff occasionally, and
Hmm.
even dipping my toes into IT stuff. I'm like, I am everywhere. And so
Oh yeah.
it means
Yeah.
that like somebody can come to me and they can naturally assume that I might know how to help them rather than knowing for a definitive fact that other people around me don't know how to do it, and maybe not necessarily having the time to go to the guy who is specialized in doing that, like going to somebody in our IT department.
Yes. Yes. Oh, absolutely. Like I've definitely been in situations where I've had to ask of people who aren't qualified in that thing to tell me how to do that thing because they are the most experienced individual in that, and the team for that thing isn't doesn't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
Whether it's like account management stuff, or maybe like graphic design stuff. Like I've definitely been put in like weird situations where I have to ask like randos for like
Yeah.
assistance with different stuff. So
Yeah, you're like
it's
I've
interesting that
seen
you.
you're like I've seen you do something with graphic design related. You might be able to help me here.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just like I'm. It's just like I do event. I don't know what you're talking about.
I saw
What?
you do it one time. Clearly,
I'm an
you.
events coordinator or something. Like yeah, absolutely.
But yes, I don't know. So, but no, in general, I do. I generally like that approach because it's just like
Mhm.
enable people in the way that you think would be the healthiest for them to understand it, and maybe pull your foot off the gas if they are indicating to you that like, no, I think I can handle this. Let me go figure it out.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's good. I guess on the flip side, then, um, I mean, what do you think would make somebody bad in this position, and not just like,
Mhm.
oh, they do the opposite of what I do? Like,
Oh, an unwillingness to learn or do something in a different way. That's number one.
okay, I like that.
There's people that get caught up in perhaps an inefficient process, and I've seen this sometimes. They might get either defensive, or they don't want to take ownership of their their mistakes, or what they don't even think is a mistake. Like if I think I'm doing something the right way and the best way, and then somebody else tells me that there's an even better way to do it, when I've developed this process and become attached to this process, I'm initially going to be hesitant to adopt that process in place. And I've seen multiple different people like do it this like go about it the wrong way, and they're just like they get very defensive about their current process. They tell them like, oh, I don't need to do that. You know, it's almost as if you had like a pasta chef who has consistently made stuff handmade and only by hand, and then a guy comes over. He's just like, well, with the same ingredients and the same effort and everything like that, I could also use this machine, um, this roller to make the same amount of pasta, but in like a quarter of the time. That guy might be very hesitant for that because there could be a variety of different reasons. But I find the same thing in either our industry or really just any company as a whole. I think that the willingness to learn and keeping that and always asking questions and trying to refine yourself and refine your processes is the best way to go about it. And then obviously the complete opposite of that would be people who get so set in their ways they're not willing to change for anything. They're the ones that either will get left behind or they're the ones who are the most resistant to um, any kind of positive change or anything like that. So
Oh yeah,
I
exactly.
it's got to be there. Got to be there.
Yeah, that is actually a really big thing. I don't know, like most industries nowadays. I don't know, like I guess the simplest way to explain it is like you look at like technology and how
Mhm.
it's gone on like a huge exponential curve, and so a lot of industries in general are following that same curve, not because of an
Yeah.
exponential growth
Yeah.
in technology, but that's just the example. And so it's like anything could be different tomorrow, and that
Mhm.
thing
Mhm.
could be infinitely more, infinitely faster, infinitely more efficient, infinitely whatever. And it's the people who do not want to adopt by it that will eventually, that habit will then eventually snowball into them not wanting to change for actually important things that kind of would require them to move with the industry.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
like I guess back I guess when I was explaining the story of how I got to where I am right now, I should have also mentioned that the account manager who was training me and then left because he got stressed, the other account manager who he was training also left shortly after he left.
Mm,
And so,
mhm.
but a part of that was because of the stress that they were having to take on, and because of that stress that they were taking on, when we finally actually had an account manager who could come in and help supervise us and make sure we were doing things properly and have
Mhm.
a tighter connection with upper management to make sure that we would make changes that would be beneficial for us in any capacity.
Mhm.
Those two were very resistant to the change. They were like, "We think she's
Oh
trying to
man.
come in here and ruin the process." I know they meant well. I know that they really were not trying to be combative to this person. I just recognized that it was the fact that, coupled with all the stress that they were having to deal with in training people and having to do all this other crap, they were very unwilling to adopt this new process because they were like, "Well, I'm already under, crazy stress from where I'm at right now doing the things that I'm already doing. So why would I take the mental energy and the physical energy needed to go and start doing something new? I will die."
Yeah.
uh,
Oh yeah.
and so,
And that quick adoption and like not necessarily just like a quick, not just like a quick turnaround time, but also just the ability to um, enhance your own process very quickly is something that's really needed. And again, like as we're on the topic of like, oh, I'd die if I took on like more. Like I've definitely seen other people there and in that same position. So yeah, it's very interesting.
yeah, but no, that seems to be one of the best. Like, your unwillingness to change is more than likely going to be one of the hardest habits for you to unlearn if you want to continue to be better at what you do.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
definitively agree with that. I like that. Um, so this might get scrapped. I'm not 100% sure, but when the person who emailed me on behalf of yourself initially reached out to me, they mentioned three core things. I don't really know what they were because I can't even seem to find the email chain for whatever reason.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
but it was like three core things, and one of them is just called "Leveling Up: The Journey from Gaming Fan to Sports Executive." The second one is "The Executive Playbook: Expert Advice for Aspiring Esports," and the third one, "Rising Above the Competition: Overcoming Challenges in Esports Media." What the hell is that?
So those are like three different topics of that I like to either like the first one like going like that the first one is just my journey from going from like entering into esports, and then the second one, advice for like people trying to get into esports. That's pretty much what that is. And then what was the third one that you said?
Rising above the competition, overcoming challenges in esports teams.
Yeah, and that one is really to kind of talk about the Knights Esports Group, what makes us different, um, and some of the challenges associated with either talent management or just like working in the industry, when trying to work with different endemic and non-endemic groups, and really the challenges that I face there on more of a day-to-day basis. So when we're kind of talking about an introduction to me, or an introduction to my role, or within esports, that's sometimes the topics that I'm going to discuss.
Right, I hear what you're saying. Okay, yeah. And it seems like
Yeah,
actually, ironically, a fair bit of this is stuff that has tangentially been talked about between here and the last episode.
yeah,
So
yeah.
luckily, luckily, most of that's covered. I guess I would be a little bit curious about the second one, the expert advice thing, but that's actually
Yeah.
kind of the last question that I have.
Oh, all
So
right.
really, we can kind of do this one of two ways. I can either ask you that question, you can ask me the questions you had before we actually started this show, since I brought something new to the forefront, or we can do that in the opposite and then go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to talk about like some of my advice, like going into esports, and then we can go into, um, some of my questions, just like about like some of the stuff that I had for you, basically.
Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, I guess
Yeah.
this last question is just like what information do you have to give to people on being in a position similar to yourself, or on just trying to be a person to get into the general industry, be it you or your surrounding peers?
Yeah, I think like you need to understand your path, and do you want to either go behind the scenes, kind of like where I'm going, or you want to go in front of the camera, be a competitive player, and what are the steps that you need to take there? So let's go down like the first route. The first route is you need to understand your skill set, then you need to try to grow it as much as possible, whether that's you know. Uh, different certifications, different types of education, taking on additional responsibilities across uh, the job landscape, so that you need to understand what you bring to the table when you go to work at an esports organization or a team. Because one thing to really stand out amongst other applicants, you have to have a variety of skills. You can't just be ultra focused on one thing.
Yeah.
Because within esports, let's face it, a lot of different organizations and teams are moving away from hiring a lot of people. Let's talk about like the hype is dissipating, or maybe like a lot more. Another thing that I've seen is just a lot of esports organizations were just overstaffed
Yeah.
due to the hype and due to a lot of different things. So you need to make sure that you are uh, do as much to make yourself either unfireable or just such a valuable asset. Just make yourself such a valuable asset to the team, whether that means being skilled in many different things, or being in such a crucial role
Yeah.
within the brand. So that, and then as far as like networking into those positions, you need to understand that not every you need to have like experience within esports or gaming in some way, whether you used to be a gamer, or whether you have a lot of experience running events, or you have a lot of experience with like understanding the competitive structure or the game mechanics of popular gaming titles. You need to develop your own thoughts and opinions so that you're able to put that into words for people outside of the industry, because no matter what department you're in within an esports team, you're going to come in contact with the opportunity to network your organization to other people
Yeah.
outside of the industry. I don't care who you are, it's going to happen. I don't care if you work in like you're an accountant. You're going to have to go to some kind of thing, or you're going to be in some kind of communication there.
Yeah.
So that stuff, I mean, that's maybe that sounds like generic career advice, but like I mean it's not. I mean, within esports it's very specialized here.
Yeah.
So uh from the competitive side, um, you need to understand your pathway there, and whether you want to be a competitive player or you want to be an influencer. Both there are some tie-ins, but the competitive player aspect is going to have down like, okay, you need to network with specific organizations, whether different competitive teams, and also you need to be consistently practicing, understand what game you're really going to invest in, and you have to develop the skills necessary for that one. What I always tell people, like Apex, Call of Duty, these are games that demand so much of movement and aim, rather than like other competitive games like Fortnite, which it has movement and aim in there, but it also has building and like so many other game mechanics in there that make it different from others. Or maybe like in if you're a competitive smasher or you're a competitive fighting game player, you need to take into account combo structures and how those differ between different titles so that you can consistently, maybe you're not winning, but maybe you're placing in the top five, you're a consistent force,
Yeah.
you know. So hone in on your role, hone in on your lane, and then from there you need to understand what are you offering to different organizations that want to work with you. Is it a massive following? Is it just raw skill? You have to understand that you have to bring all those things into yourself. So you have to consistently, I'm sorry to all the people that are that just want to play, but you have to make content. You have to make content because they're like, an esports organization is going to take the guy who's making content as a player over you if you're just making you're just being a player. Okay, I'm sorry, that's the reality.
Yeah, it's also like, how are they going
Because
to find you most of the time?
exactly, how are they going to find you? So what you need to do is you have to have your competitive skills constantly being trained. You have to increase your skill in the game. Then you have to increase your content portfolio. You have to make sure that you understand all of the places that you're going to be regularly and consistently posting to. And you need to make sure that that account is not only consistently being posted, but you're also being an engaged asset to your followers. You're liking and commenting on their comments. You're engaging with them if they DM you. Those kinds of things. Maybe you're even running. I know I saw one creator. And he's just like, anybody who likes and comments, you get in the drawing to win $100. That's cool. That's simple.
Yeah.
You know, and that kind of thing. Engage, and then making sure you have a plan to grow your profiles. Then from there, you need to understand your audience. Who are your followers? Who are your people? What do they like? What are their ages? You need to understand who follows you and what you offer to those people, because then what you can do is you can go to brands that you want to sponsor you. You can go to different esports teams that you want to be a part of. It's just like, these are my fans. I understand this is what I'm bringing to you. I am not only very, very skilled at this game title, but my fans are going to be your fans. So um, like that. And then you also need to be willing to work with. This is kind of obvious, but you need to be willing to work for a variety of different brands. Okay, and you need to understand, what does that sponsorship look like for you, so that, like, the reason I say this is because there's a lot of these like younger people getting into competitive gaming or streaming or content creation, and they don't know how to negotiate with those brands. They don't even know what a sponsorship with them would look like. So you need to iron out what that would look like for you. What is your dream scenario? Um, and really, what are the terms there? So that, skill in the game, becoming a really good representative of yourself to those professional discussions, and understanding your audience and consistently providing those things for your audience. That's definitely where you should focus on if you're looking to get into the space from the competitive gaming or content creator side. And then on the flip side, the behind the scenes, the corporate side, make sure that you're developing like multiple different skills, multiple different areas. Make sure that you're able to take on a lot of different responsibilities, and just really be a great asset to multiple departments and multiple teams. Because I'm on the corporate partnership side, but I deal with every department. I deal with the executive guys, the finance guys, the graphic design guys, the events guys. I'm on the ground at certain things. I'm on meetings where at first I'm like, wait, what is this? What is this even for? Like, why am I put on this? And then I come to understand like 5 minutes into the call. So just like be able to turn on a head. Um, that's my advice for those two different routes, really, within gaming. I know that was like pretty long, but sorry, I
No, I mean,
apologize.
because it's obviously not like a one and done answer. You're not like, oh yeah, just do this one thing and you'll be fine. Like, no, obviously everything is more complicated than that.
Yeah,
And I guess
yeah.
specifically in like the background side of it being like on the executive side or whatever, I think a lot of people don't recognize necessarily that
Hmm.
you need to be able to wear a lot of different hats in general, because who knows what could be thrown at you. Who knows if
Exactly.
something that's thrown at you is only thrown at you because it's kind of in the middle of you in another department, but it's more forward facing to you, so you should take it.
Hmm.
But another
Hmm.
thing is that when you learn more about other departments and other branches and other just what other people do within the same company that you work for, not even necessarily the same department, but within the same company that you do, the more you learn about that, the better it makes you at your job, because you understand
Oh,
more context
absolutely.
around what you are doing.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. It's when you have more skills that uh, I'm going to put this into layman's terms. If you can do a lot of good things very well, you're also able to do one thing very well, and it just all kinds of feeds into your original job description. And then, if anything, that just gives you bragging rights. It's like, yeah, I do this, but I can also do all these other cool things.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. Hence why.
kind of like on the job training in a way.
Yeah, hence
That's
why.
why when it's like when people like you and me that get put into panicky situations where our backs are against the wall and everybody that was supposed to train us leaves, we're gonna
Yeah, we
do
got
okay.
it. Yeah. And
Yeah, we
that's
got
exactly
it.
the reason why when I introduced you the first time and now, this is primarily what you do, but you also have a background in these 5 other things. like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
so yeah, no, like generally it's, I don't know, the way that I look at it is it's like if you're really good at your job, that's cool. You're really good at doing this portion of stuff. And then as you
Mhm.
learn more about what the other roles around you are doing, then it helps you expand what your current job is doing, and you're now able to be really good at this much.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
just like you're not tunnel visioned into one thing. You're like, oh, I understand all the facets and all of the gears that turn to make this whole operation work. This is my gear. I understand all these other ones that work in tandem with it.
yeah. I completely agree, man. That's awesome.
So
So, now that we got to talk to mine, I was wondering what are some of the games that you have really been getting interested in, and what are some things that really draw you to that? I saw a little bit about just to refresh on like what you've been up to. I saw some of your stuff about like Ultra Gear. I don't
Ultra Kill.
Ultra Gear. Ultra Kill. Fuck. Sorry.
Oh no,
Ultra Kill. That's it.
you're thinking of Guilty Gear, probably that other fighting
Yeah,
game.
I'm like, huh. So what is so what have you been up to? Like, what's like kind of surrounding that?
I mean, for my audience, you guys of course knew that somehow I was gonna bring Ultra Kill back to this because I'm a fucking dweeb. Uh, like it's crazy. No, I've been getting into that. I've been getting into a lot of like smaller games like that. They're just like random offshoot games that again streamers that I like and content creators I've seen post about. So
Mm-hmm.
like there's a game called Peaks of Yore, which is a first person physics based like rock climbing game, but it's on like actual mountainous cliff sides and whatnot.
Wow.
Really
Okay.
really simplistic graphics, really simple, mostly tight controls, and it's a great time. Um, so I've been getting into a lot of stuff like that, but I've also been getting back into games that I used to that I kind of put away for a little bit because I don't know, they didn't serve me. So I've been getting into Risk of Rain. I've been really getting into a game that I got a few months ago, but then again dropped because it wasn't my cup of tea at the time. RoboQuest, which is like a
Oh.
first person shooter, like Doom inspired sort of game, but it's a roguelite. So like you can
Okay.
play as a bunch of different characters, get a bunch of different weapons, bunch of different upgrades, a bunch of random stuff. Really fun. It also does have a multiplayer, so you can play with a friend. And then
Oh, I'm looking at RoboQuest. I'm looking at this right now.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty sweet.
This
And
looks like a combination of like Borderlands and Bulletstorm, but you're all like robots.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think maybe that's the biggest draw to that game specifically is the fact that it has a Borderlands art style because it's a really pretty looking game. It's a
Yeah.
visually, I mean, it looks nice. The colors pop and everything, and every single weapon, to my knowledge, in the game has its own. When you shoot, there will be like an onomatopoeia text that comes up on screen for every bullet you fire.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So it's really comedic. But then, especially as of recently, Sea of Thieves finally added an anti cheat into their game. So me and my friends are back on a kick for that. um,
What's so? What I'm curious. What is the appeal of Sea of Thieves? Like, why do you think that? Because when we talk about passionate fan bases, it's got to be like that and Titanfall. Like, because like Titanfall 2 creators have been making content for them and edits and all that kind of stuff for years. And I've only seen that kind of same stuff with like Sea of Thieves. So tell me more about why you think Sea of Thieves is like, I don't know, like attracting such an audience. Because I thought it was just pirates. I was like, why would you just play Black Flag? You know,
yeah,
but
no,
that's probably insulting to a lot of people. But sorry.
I mean, it very likely could be. I'm not really sure. I know that there are two entirely different games that focus on two entirely different things, from what I understand. I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of the appeal of Sea of Thieves is one, you get to play with some friends, so already that's great.
that's awesome. Yeah.
It's a surprisingly good game for solo content creators when they're, especially if they're streaming, because
Mhm.
there's a fair bit of time where you're kind of not doing a lot of crazy stuff, so you can just be talking with people, and then when something crazy does happen, then that drives the engagement.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I don't know. I do. I
There's
think
sea monsters, right?
there's a couple.
There's
I
a
mean,
sea.
yeah, you can fight like sharks. You can fight a megalodon if it spawns on you. You can fight a kraken if it spawns on you.
God,
But most of the
that's so
creatures that
scary.
you're going to be fighting are like skeletons and other weird, like I don't know, weird aquatic type creatures that end up on land and are bipedal and will try and fight you. Um,
The hell?
there's like shrines that you can go and do where you fight mermaids that shoot projectiles at you. I think do they? I don't remember. So there's a fair bit of that. So, but most of
I
it,
always wanted to punch a mermaid, so that's cool.
you can't quite punch them, but if you want, you can
Oh, okay.
slash them with a sword or shoot them with a blunderbuss. You take
That
your pick.
that probably work. That probably works
It's
better.
good enough. But I mean, honestly, in general, I think it's just the core gameplay loop of Sea of Thieves that's really satisfying because everything you do
Mhm.
feels like it gives you a reward and it gives you a reason to want to keep playing. Some of the rewards are not properly balanced for what you get, for what you have to do to get them, I'll admit. Um,
Okay.
but it's like I don't know. There's a lot of character customization, weapon customization. You can get a bunch of different clothing.
Mhm.
Doing events and getting certain commendations and completing certain challenges will give you like really flashy looking cosmetics for things. Um,
Huh. Okay.
there's a lot of content in the game, and because it's technically an open world game, it means that like stuff is updating in real time. So like
Oh wow.
so
Okay.
there's things in the game called like world events, which are just like a big event that usually takes place on a bigger plane than just one island that you find. So there's
Right.
an event
Okay.
you can do where you're driving around the seas or kind of like circling around an island per se, and there's like ghost ships that will keep spawning that you have to defeat.
You have to
Um,
fight ghost ships.
yeah, on a ship,
So they're.
obviously.
Oh wow. Okay.
So there's like stuff that you can do
Wow.
there. But then once you defeat that, then after, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, then another one can spawn. And another person on the server can go and do that
Interesting.
and whatnot.
Because like I always thought like the clips that I see for Sea of Thieves is just people like fucking around with each other. Like
That's
they're
a
just
big
like, all
part of
right, I'm
it,
gonna
yeah.
go. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, he just went onto his ship and like literally just stole all of his treasure without them even noticing. And then he's just like, all right, we're gonna go. I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
wow.
those are
And
new
then it's
players
like,
for you.
isn't it also like open mic too? So like technically they can hear you.
You
Like
can
if you have.
hot
Oh,
mic.
okay.
Obviously, a lot of times if you're in a crew, you're not going to, but you can have a
Yeah.
public crew of people where anybody can leave and join on a whim. And so you
Yeah.
like sometimes we have me and my buddies have played the game, and we and we find a ship and they start shooting at us, so we start shooting back, and then obviously when you're in a ship versus ship combat, you have to be concerned on if somebody is going to show up on your ship to try and kill your people so that they can
Yeah.
keep your ship locked down and destroy it. But sometimes it will be a public crew and they'll be hot micing and we can hear them talking as they swim up to our ship.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so,
It's just like, yeah, we're gonna take all their stuff, and then you're just like, what?
yeah, and yeah,
What did you?
literally, yeah, bust a blunderball into his fucking face.
Yeah.
So that's a part of it. But that is to be said is a lot of the game is fucking around and just doing whatever with your friends because it's a very large
So,
world and you don't travel very fast. You do spend a lot of time just kind of going to places.
oh God, I
Um,
don't know enough sea shanties for this game, man.
The
I'm
good news
sorry.
is that there's instruments. The game will do the shanties for
Really?
you.
Oh, that's
So
sick. That's
they
insane.
have people covered. I mean, your characters won't like sing it, but they'll play like the top line singing for it. And then if other people
Mm.
join you, they'll be playing like supporting instruments that are underneath it. So
Yeah.
they've got
Oh
you
wow,
covered
that's cool.
in that capacity. Um,
What else are we gonna do? Well, like we could sing. It's like, oh, all
yeah,
right,
yeah,
why
literally,
not?
that's exactly what we do. But no, like speaking to the people just dicking around and playing the game. There's a content creator that I used to watch a lot playing Sea of Thieves. He's since not stepped away from streaming, but he like had a kid a few months ago, so dealing with all that. But
Mm-hmm.
he would primarily solo stream the game, and there'd be times where he'd go on to ships that I'm convinced these players have never played the game before. They
Oh
figured out how to find
no.
loot, but they didn't know what they were doing. And so what he did is he took a food item that is not supposed to be able to be cooked and he put it on their stove and waited 5 minutes while sitting on their ship in a hiding spot until until the food burned and caught their ship on fire.
So five real minutes.
5 real-time minutes, yeah, where he was like laying down behind one of like the pieces of something in their ship and they couldn't find him.
So
Uh,
what? How did they catch it? They just let the ship burn and they just like Did they go down with the ship at least?
I'm trying to remember what happened. I think it eventually got to a point where they may have found him, but because it was like a ship of only a few people, like either
Okay.
2 or 3 people, but they didn't know how to play the game, he might have been able to take them down and then eventually destroy the ship. I don't remember. But
Wow.
like, yeah, I don't know.
Huh.
Like anything can happen in a game that has that much stuff in it. So I think that's typically what the appeal of the game would be.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
There is like a strict PvP queue you can do as well, where you can like flip an hourglass, and then every couple of minutes, when it finds you another opponent of a similar ship size or the same ship
Yeah.
size, you will both go under the sea and then emerge back up in like open waters, and then you get to fight each other, and then whoever
That's
wins, you move
cool.
on, and then you can just keep going. So
Sea of Thieves competitive.
yeah, literally,
That's so
exactly,
cool.
dude. They have like competitive tournaments that they do, I think, for content creators sometimes.
Wow.
So
That's interesting.
yeah, so all that stuff is really cool, but then they didn't have anti cheat, and so it became not worth playing very much.
Okay.
But and so at the beginning of March, I think they instituted anti cheat, and so me and my friends have been on a kick for that game. But that's
Yeah.
the rough appeal of that game, in my opinion.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, because like this the fan base is like hard to ignore. I like then there's that and then Titanfall. Do you play Titanfall at
I
all?
love that game so much.
Okay. So Titanfall 1 or 2 because
The
people
second
like
one,
2, right?
yeah, I think the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
might be. I think the servers might be off now.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
unfortunate, but
It's always
Titanfall 2 is
sucks.
just like a better game, so that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. Yeah.
But
People were like, um, I don't know, like the exosuits. They're like sort of alive, right, or something like that.
um, I I mean, well, so there's like the Titans that you can be in that have their own AI that, and so like
Yeah.
they'll
Okay.
talk to you and give you battle strategies, and like one of the main like I guess like I what the hell, like one of the main companions to the character you play as in the campaign is your Titan who will talk with you and whatnot.
Oh. Okay.
So,
Okay.
but I think the reason people are so obsessed with that game is because it has probably the most satisfying movement of any game ever.
I have seen that.
Or like
Yeah.
top three most satisfying movement of any game ever. And I think it has such a passionate fan base because it came out around the time another Call of Duty came out, and this was, and so that did not do good for them. It happened
Yeah.
twice
Yeah.
actually for them, for both of their game releases. They got shafted because they released them right as another Call of Duty game came out or something.
I don't. Why would you do that?
I don't know.
What did they plan on that?
I
How
hope
does that happen twice?
they better not have. I'm guessing it's because of delays or something. It doesn't matter, but so as a result,
Yeah.
it kind of got shafted for a while. But
I would rather just sit on the game if I knew that it was like, oh, okay, so a Call of Duty game is set to release on the same day, and like, okay, let's just sit on this for like a month and just let
yeah.
and then release the game. Yeah. But I remember it's almost like what is it, Mirror's Edge
Oh
in
yes.
parkour systems, but also that tied in with um yeah with like a shooter, which is like very very interesting.
Yeah,
You
it's
know.
sick, especially because it feels satisfying. Like it feels satisfying to learn how to use the movement to evade your opponents and not die, but it doesn't feel
Mm.
frustrating most of the time to play into. I don't really know
Yeah.
how they do it because like the characters are really fast, but I guess it's just fairly easy to track them. So it's like as long as you have
Mhm.
half decent, you know, FPS aim, you can deal with them.
Yeah.
So it just feels good on both behalves. And there's like a bunch of different lethals and tacticals that are not designed for movement, but can technically be combined with it to increase your movement. And it's really
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Yeah, but that's always like the best. Those are always the best strategies. Like stuff that wasn't originally meant to be that is now being used for that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's like that's those are like the ones that work the best or have the most love from the fans.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's where the love for both of those games come from.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Well now I know because I haven't really been in depth with a lot of like different subcultures. Like obviously the Halo, like that's an easy game to understand why the fan base is like so about it. They've done like so much world building and novels and like so much about it, and also it's just like just famous in general. But like as far as like Sea of Thieves and Titanfall, I simply just didn't understand. I was just like, oh, I'm like, this is cool. I never got to play them, so I was like, all right,
Yeah, now you get it a little bit more. So,
yeah, exactly.
but yeah, those are basically the games that I've mostly been into as of recent because they just feel
Mm.
the most. I play a lot of Overwatch actually because I have a problem, but like other than that,
what is the deal with Overwatch? I've heard like the competitive kind of died a little bit, but like the people are happy or something. I don't know. What's the situation over there?
Um, I don't know. Apparently they went and made a dev post recently saying something to the effect of they want to make the game more competitive, even to the
Mm,
point of making the casual mode a competitive. Not making the casual mode a competitive, but they basically said like we want people to try as if it's competitive in quick play. But they didn't seem to imply that they would even give people another option to play the game casually for when they are, say, learning a new
interesting.
character.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Ew.
And I don't know how
We
much of
don't
that
like
is
that.
gospel. I don't know how much of that is actually real. Because
Yeah.
from other things that I've seen from them, they have some fairly promising things that they want that they are trying to enact in the game
Hmm.
that just make the game overall I feel more worth it to play per se. Like the only thing I can really think of off the top of my head is every season because they have a battle pass at the very end you get a mythic skin, and that mythic skin you can they'll give you a couple of components that you can use to like change the color palette, change the weapon look, change like a headpiece and something else, something to that effect.
Hmm. Hmm.
But obviously you can only get it during that season of the game, and so in the upcoming season they are planning on putting in something that allows you to get a currency that can be used to get the ones you didn't have in the past.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it's not like I'm sure they probably will allow you to pay for it because they're fucking greedy. But I like the concept of if I complete these challenges, I can get these coins and then use those to unlock the one mythic skin that I currently don't have.
Yeah, it's like, like what exactly? I mean, the effort level trade off here. Like, what is and then it's going to be like, okay, well now we've also enabled it so that anybody who just wants it can just purchase it. You know, like that
Yeah, which
also
I'm
like,
hoping not, especially because if they do
yeah,
that, they're going to make those skins very expensive because they've made skins that don't look very good.
yeah.
They did a collaboration with Diablo, I believe, and gave one of the characters in Overwatch a skin, and that skin by itself was $40. I was like, that's a fucking scam.
That's insane.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
like at least with like at least with Counter Strike, you know, like there's like the resale and then there's a full like system in place
there's an
that people can
economy
like
built
buy
out
and
for it.
sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then, but that's the only time that I think is it's ever been successful. Really, I mean y- that. Well, I mean maybe that in like League of Legends, but like possibly.
Yeah, who really knows? Yeah, I don't know. There's plenty of other games that I play that have plenty of microtransactions to them, and I don't really care most of the time. But coming from
Mhm.
Blizzard, for some reason, it stings more. I guess it's because I
Yeah.
think coming from Blizzard, it stings more because I enjoyed Overwatch 1 so much and I didn't have to buy any of the characters. Overwatch 2
Mhm.
came out and they said if you don't have a legacy Overwatch 1 account, you can maybe buy the heroes that we arbitrarily locked behind a wall or do challenges to unlock characters that otherwise were unlocked in Overwatch 1. Like they would just lock random Overwatch 1 heroes in Overwatch 2 for new accounts. Um, and then because of the general issue of power creep, them introducing a new character um, that you have to technically buy the battle pass to be able to get is a very big problem. So I
It's just
think
so much.
moving forward, they've removed that as well, where they're now basically going back on their word and giving you the character when you play the game. Which hallelujah. Um,
Which is how we're supposed to do these things, guys.
Yeah,
Come
that's how
on.
stuff is
Like,
supposed to be done. And I don't know. From what I've heard, it's probably like I think I don't know if whatever team that works on like whatever like the Overwatch team I guess is like strapped for cash because apparently that was why they
mm,
stopped development for Overwatch 1 because it wasn't making them any money or it wasn't making them enough. So they basically slashed the last 2 years of the Overwatch 1 development cycle, and by that I mean the game was still up but they weren't putting anything new into it so they could make Overwatch 2. Uh and then because they made the game free to not piss off even more people, they then have just made every current microtransaction that they have so I don't want to call it predatory per se, but it's like they're
mhm.
overcharging to hell and back for a lot of stuff, and it feels really dirty.
Yeah. No, that's really just sad to see from a company that has an IP that is like that popular to like be. I mean, again, we're not saying scamming, but like very, very close to that with their fans. But
Yeah. It's just not a
interesting.
general good business model to practice. But again, they're introducing some things to hopefully mitigate some of that. And I don't spend that much money on Overwatch 2, so I don't care. I just keep playing the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a whole bunch of other stuff regarding that, but I'd be here for hours if that came up.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
But yeah, I hope that answered your question.
No, 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 that does. Yeah, I get curious about like certain people's viewpoints on these things, and especially as like almost like an insider yourself is, and I would just that's why I wanted to ask those questions.
Yeah, fair enough. But
Yeah.
I think, I mean, let me double check here. Oh, okay. I guess this should hopefully actually be a short thing because this was something I was genuinely very interested in examining. I just wrote it at the top and somehow forgot about it. So in the last
Yeah.
episode, you mentioned a couple of things that make esports better compared to traditional sports. In that like gatekeeping doesn't exist nearly as much. But then there were other things
Yeah.
you mentioned that were like people haven't quite figured out how to properly approach how to healthily approach doing it as a full-time career and whatnot, which is what you are trying to fix. I'm just curious if
Mhm.
you think that these good things and bad things relative to other mediums that are similar to it are just as a direct result of how new esports or how new esports as a medium is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good question. I think it's not only related to how new esports is, but also just the technology around it that has made it so successful and accessible. And there's also less groups that have been invested in it for so long. Like let's take like football or any traditional sports for example. There's constantly multiple different groups vying for the exclusive rights to the season to stream it
Yeah.
or or the Super Bowl, you know. But within esports, pretty much every competitive event is available to watch for free on Twitch or YouTube Live, and everybody is able to not only view it at home, but they're able to comment, be a part of the action. It's very accessible that way.
Yeah.
And in another way, the gaming content creators and overall people in gaming, they live and interact with their fans or the audience on socials. Athletes on the traditional side have really only just started to utilize social media as a tool to connect with their fans, but gamers have been doing it for a lot longer.
Yeah.
And I think that because of the accessibility alone, that's why we've um, been able to not only excel so much, but in such a short span of time. So you bring up a good point. Esports is new, but even though it is new, people have been able to excel so much because of simplistic characteristics of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
I
yeah, that's
apologize.
kind of exactly kind of that was partially what I was expecting is
Mhm.
like the first portion of it where you said esports isn't as gatekeepy. It's like, yeah, when anybody anywhere can watch it as long as Twitch or YouTube are not banned in their country. Like
Yeah,
they can just
yeah,
watch whatever the hell they want and it's up to them to keep up with when it's going to happen and then they just go and they watch it. So that makes
yeah,
sense.
and a lot of the times the medium in which they are viewing it is conducive to research. So like if they have questions about like terminology that they're using or they want to try out the game or anything like that, like they are able to watch it on their computer or watch it on their phone, keep it going in the background and search up like what the heck's going on. Whereas like with traditional sports, that wasn't always the case. You know, if people were confused about certain things, they didn't always have accessible like perhaps like just their phones because they would go to a lot of these to view it. They would be in their living room away from their computer, away from stuff to view the competitive entertainment.
Yeah.
You know, so within esports, it's surrounded by ways to verse yourself up on different things, as opposed to traditional sports, which is just so ingrained in certain things that um, they kind of gatekeep if you're not already involved. So, and all that to say that esports has done a very good job of not only staying relevant but also being as accessible as possible to people. And gaming as a subculture, I mean, we've gone through so many different games and types of games, but there it just proves our point that there's something out in this for everyone. Traditional sports is very linear, and if you either like it or you don't like it, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Um, so yeah, no, I hope that answers your question. That's my very wordy way of saying it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's yeah that is generally like just a pretty good way to look at it. And as a person who doesn't involve themselves with esports much, I am interested to see over the next couple of years how it expands because especially like the success of the esports industry of that specific game that you might be into is going to be dependent on how much people care about being competitive or the game in general being competitive at any given time. But that also means that if one of them falls short, you more than likely will have another game that you can find some degree of competitiveness in consuming, like
Yes.
consuming competitive style content for it. Whereas with traditional, just like competitive sports, it's like you get a couple, you get a
Yeah.
couple, and
Yeah.
that's it.
You you gotta cut. Yeah, and that's like really. I think it's more bad than good for it. Like even like we'll take like the content surrounding the competitive and the off season in esports. Like it's their job to make the content, the vlogs, the boot camps, those kinds of things throughout the season, and even in the off season. But like, what do we really hear from like on the traditional sports side? Like, of course, we're able to see the training camps for like a couple of weeks out of the year, but that's about it.
Yeah,
So like, um, there's and maybe we'll see some of the Amazon exclusive or Netflix documentaries talking about, oh, this is behind the scenes at those things. But it's like, oh, so now, but that's not accessible. I have to have a Prime membership or I have to have a Netflix membership, and it's also
yeah.
like that's not consistent. That might come out in a year, and they might do another season two like next year, but like even to
If they
to
do it,
peer in. Yeah, if they even do it, like even just to peer in, like it's tough to get into that gaze on the traditional sports side. So not to like beat a dead horse or anything, but we're like just going through like a lot of the different reasons why I why I think that why a lot of people think that just esports is the future of competitive entertainment, and more people need to understand that this isn't going away anytime soon. And our viewership has the viewership, engagement, and participation in tournaments has continued to grow, whereas at multiple levels of traditional sports, it has been either stagnant or it has decreased. One of the only reasons, and you can quote me on this, one of the only reasons that like on the traditional sports side, the Super Bowl was able to increase its viewership is because of the Travis Kelsey Taylor Swift thing.
yeah,
Okay, because they were able to drive so much relevance to football again, um, by using her and her platform and her fans, and that drove when we talk about Disneyfying something and making it so open and available for the casual fans. That's exactly what the NFL did. It's exactly what the NFL did, and all the different groups that invest in Taylor Swift did with that because they were able to get a really really good return on getting the Swifties in line with football.
yeah,
And that's fine.
exactly.
And I get it from a strategic standpoint. It was genius, but esports doesn't have to do that.
Yeah,
Like we don't have to
you don't have
like
to
we don't
try to do
have
it; it just happens.
yeah, exactly. We don't have to I don't have to depend on some, musical artists for that. And like our fans and our the fan base in this niche is already expanding in its own natural way. So um anyway,
Yeah.
again, that's my final rant, I swear.
His final rant. Yeah, yeah. I
Final
can.
rant. I'm gonna go call my dad after this and be like, you don't believe, we won't believe what I just talked about.
you.
I I'm so pissed now. I'm scared.
No, that yeah. I'm like that's the divide between me and my parents. They're watching football all the time, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch a tournament of some. I don't know. I don't know what tournament. A tournament of
We didn't.
undisclosed.
Yeah, like as a family, we never even watched like football and everything like that. We would watch UFC and World's Strongest Man.
Oh, nice.
So we would watch Strongman. So like even those like from, and this is back in like the early 2000s, like when we would watch any type of sporting events, and like nowadays we'll watch like, well, I mean, we used to do this too, but we still do this more often. We'd watch like documentaries,
Yeah.
documentaries, and like different sports related TV series. We were really really big into the Formula One series that I believe Netflix put out
Yeah.
a while ago, and that's like you talk about a niche. Like Formula One is also like insanely a niche fan base for people.
Yeah.
So um, by the way, the training that those guys go in, I think that the two people that have the best reaction times are are competitive esports players and Formula One drivers.
Yeah, I can believe it.
Yeah, because Formula One drivers like they have the fastest reaction time in the world. They also are they could die anytime that they go out there to race.
Yeah.
So like the training that they do is literally going to save their lives. But on the esports side, like they're taking in a lot of information as well. So they're not working out their necks as much, which is kind of funny because like a Formula One driver, their bodies can handle like 5 Gs, 10 Gs of
Yeah, it's
force.
crazy.
It's literally insane. Like god.
But yeah, all of this
So
was to be said. I think the fact that we're seeing more competition surrounding recreational activities is pretty cool.
mhm.
The next closest thing I can think of is fuck, what the hell is it called? Forged in Iron. That's that show where they just like make knives and swords and things, and they have to test their
Nah, man,
Forged in
that is
Fire. Yeah,
such a good show. I
right.
love Forged and Fire, man. As far as like everybody took from the Chopped, like a lot of that started with Chopped on
Yeah,
Food Network. Let's face it. Like a lot of people took from that blend, just like a lot of people took from Chipotle's blend of like as a business.
yeah. Oh yeah,
But like that show started like Guy Fieri's Guy's Grocery Games, all these other different shows where they're held to this thing and they have to utilize their skills for that. I would love to see something like that. I mean, we already see that within gaming. It's just like I'm going to play Dark Souls and I'm going to use a Guitar Hero controller,
yeah,
or I'm going to use like like I'm going to use like those kinds of things where it's just dependent on that uh, person's skill
yeah,
in question. I love those like raw like things of just like skill. That's why it's just like in effect it's like an underdog story.
yeah,
You know, it's like everybody loves hearing about like the athlete who like broke an arm or broke a leg and still went on to finish the game, something like that. Everybody loves those kinds of stories. Um, but yeah, it's just like that.
yeah. So yeah, that's ultimately what I'm getting out of this is make more competitive media. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, like, if we could I would love to see like a bunch of esports athletes go into a Goodwill or like a dumpster and find stuff and parts to build their PCs that they have to compete on, and they only have like a week to finish the build. It's like, okay, well, where am I going to go? I'm going to go dumpster dive at a Best Buy and a Costco, and I'm going to find the materials, and then boom, we're going to go from there.
Yeah,
Oh, how do you even cool it? I put all the components in the
I
freezer.
put
And
it
I'm just
in the
going to depend
freezer.
on that. Yeah, I put it in. That's how I'm going to compete.
Yeah,
Like
the,
that's the type of stuff we got to up the stakes here.
yeah.
And then
The case for the PC is actually the freezer itself.
yeah, exactly.
Like
Yeah,
that's
no, and then like it's the freezer itself, and then I dumped a bunch of ice cubes underneath my desk also, and then like I put it, and then we got to put like thumbtacks or like tasers on like their chairs, so that if they get shot in the game, they get tased in
they
real
get.
life or something. That's how we need to do. That's like the next level of
That's
this.
funny. I
You
like that
know,
idea.
we have like a bunch of Navy SEALs come in and fire live rounds in the room that they're at.
Not at them, just in the room. See if they can handle
No, just in the room. Yeah, no, I'm not. We don't have to shoot at them. I mean, we can. We can have a bunch of kids come up with like paintball guns and just like light them up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not opposed to that at all.
No, that sounds like a great idea that you should pitch to somebody over there. I don't know. I don't
Shark
know who could
Tank.
take it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Well,
pitch
that
it to
too.
Shark Tank, or the Twitch execs. Like, listen, guys. I found this. I have this idea. Firm, I know what we're gonna do today.
Yeah. I read through all of your terms of service, and from what I can understand, nothing that I'm proposing here is against it.
I'm like, can we just have like a Pokemon situation where you just kind of like give me a slap on the wrist if I break any rules, you know?
Oh God.
Or like XQC, like what if I like pirated an entire movie and just said I was reacting to it? It's okay, right? Like,
Yeah, I think there was a guy who was he streamed a fighting game on Twitch where he had his webcam on and he had his controller pressing buttons, but it was just an
But it was
actual
UFC.
UFC fight. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those, and they're just, ugh, that's horrible. And they're just like, yeah, man, and I'm like, no, man, no, no. No. There's been so many times where I've seen like UFC fighters like illegally streaming the UFC like 250 or like different UFC tournaments, and they like were just showing it to Dana White, and he's just like, what? Why? Like, why are you doing
Why are you
this?
doing that? Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you? Why do you act like that?
Yeah, but on the note of pirating UFC,
Yeah,
I think
that's where we're gonna leave everything.
Yeah, that's everything.
Today,
that's
guys.
everything, man. Yeah, I think we got out a lot of good tangents today. This has been a very successul show.
This is good. This is a good way to spend my Saturday.
Yeah, this is a great way to spend my Saturday. And now after this, I'm gonna go I'm gonna go get tacos.
Well, you know, I hope if anything, like people are inspired to support the things that truly represent them.
Yeah.
If you don't like the Halo show, don't watch the Halo show. You know, watch some angry YouTuber's review of the Halo show instead of watching.
Yeah.
You know, like if you don't like some representation of the thing that you like, don't support it. If those developers or the people part of the project have roasted the fan base or treated you guys poorly, don't support them. You know, like if anything, go with that mentality after listening to this episode, and at the same time, you know, try to find your passions and increase your overall skill set so that you guys can keep on crushing it, doing and living your most amazing lives. Like, I hope people get those two things.
Yeah, amen, brother. Yeah,
this.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's end off on an inspiring note.
Yeah.
Yeah. With all that in mind, I'm glad that that I could catch you on a random Saturday to bring you back on. It's been a hell of a talk.
Yeah, man. Happy to come on in part 3, or like if you wanna do like a season finale or something like that, and bring like a couple of your guests, I'm happy to. I'm game to come on, or if you want somebody to, you know, just be an active body and handhold you through Helldivers, and you want to stream that one of these days, I'm more than happy to do that. I have a private Helldivers server that I just like run with like me and my friends, and I'm like, all right, everybody go to the server. It's just more.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm gonna email you in like a month's time, and I'll be like, hey man, how's it going?
Yeah, I'll be like, hey,
I got Helldivers again. Because that was part of the thing is I bought the game and I was like, I'm not too into this, so I refunded it. But I was like, hey man.
Oh, you did? Okay, good.
Yeah,
good.
So I was like, hey,
at least you got your money back.
I was like, hey Liam, so I rebought the game. You're like,
dude, completely get it. I mean, like I'll call in different stratagems and make sure that you have good guns to like go by, and then we'll just rack up the XP on like easier missions.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I'll see how I want to handle the third episode. There's probably some esports stuff that's gonna eventually come up, or just anything that I'm like, you know, who would be good to talk about this again?
Yeah, you know who's really an emotionally charged person? Let's bring Liam back on. He gets mad for no reason at certain things.
Yeah, but it's really funny, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
but,
thank you.
I mean,
it's just like, you know who watched the Fallout show and was really upset about it? Oh, he did. Liam did.
Bring him up for a whole episode on just the Fallout show.
Yeah, it's like, are you kidding me?
You're like, all right, you're going through this episode by episode. You're like, this first episode, 7 out of 10. Second episode, 4 out of 10.
Yeah,
Season
I'm just
average.
like, are you? Yeah, and I'm just like, it ends with me like punching my table in half because I'm just like, what was this garbage?
Yeah, we have the video recording on, and he's just like, oh, yeah, it fell over. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go. I'm gonna put it back on the thumbtacks, but
I'm modeling my I'm going into Halo and I'm just like creating my own map where it's just like it's like a Minecraft-esque design of like the cast from the Halo show, and I just like airstrike it. I'm just like, nope.
Yeah.
We go into Fortnite creative mode, we take Unreal Engine, and we just like take the entire cast of like the Fallout, Halo, any other insulting shows like cast, is just like, all right,
blow it up,
get out of here. Yeah,
destroy it.
Just destroy it. This is all, and then we'll get like 100,000 CCV just from people being like, yeah,
yeah.
Let's go,
hell yeah. I would have done it myself, but I didn't want to put in the effort, so you guys did it for me.
Yeah. And I'm just like, listen, guys, here's the server. Everybody can come in and just like blow it up, and then we'll do it in Minecraft too, and then the Roblox, just to make sure everybody
just to
feels
catch
at home.
all of them.
we're gonna get all like the pissed off adults and kids who are like, I don't know what this is. I'll be like, and then I'll make a Star Wars Legends use like all of the niche stuff that happened in the novels, and I'll just make that in Fortnite Creative and be like, if anybody feels not at home with Disney's version of Star Wars,
This might be the
I'm your
place for
guy.
you.
I'm like, this is for you guys. But I got to call it like Star Wars adjacent, like War Stars or something
Yeah, like there was
like some.
there's probably like a Simpsons patent that they got for like a because like Simpsons did a bunch of parody stuff. They probably did like a parody of
Yeah,
that. Um,
yeah, because free use like only
Parody
gets you
laws.
so far. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that did they call it Cosmic Wars? Yeah, they called it Cosmic Wars. Anyways, no,
Awesome.
that's
Yeah,
that sounds like
I'll
a
do something like that.
that sounds like a fantastic way to spend that, and I hope people tune into that when it inevitably comes out. But
When we drop that stream,
yeah,
we'll definitely do that.
yeah. But in the meantime, if there's anything that you thought was important here today that you think people should know about, you're free to plug away again. Obviously, not as many names were
Yeah.
dropped, but if there's anything important, you go right on ahead.
No, yeah, I mean, like, keep up to date on what we're doing, guys. We just started the North American Valorant Challengers League. If you guys are at all curious as to how does somebody go pro within esports, it's definitely worth a watch because uh, Knights Arena, we're making it so that over 256 teams within all of North America have the chance to really chase their dreams and go pro within Valorant. And they'll by the end of the league they'll become officially pro teams and be able to compete in the pro circuit. So really happy to be a part of that because it for me it gives people the chance to follow their dreams within gaming and really prove to mom and dad like, yeah, I can do this, and to prove those naysayers wrong. So definitely feel free to check out the Challengers League. We are producing that and running it on behalf of Riot Games. And then stay up to date with some of the other stuff that we're going to be doing. We're going to be starting up our own leagues within a couple of different other esports. So stay tuned with those. Very much expanding our roles as governing bodies within esports from the league management or the tech side as well. So very excited for what the future holds. So yeah, stick with us.
Very nice. Yeah, you can peep all that information down below. I mean, there's not really a way to link to the Challengers League per se, but we can at least link to help
Yeah,
find them.
we can link. Yeah, we can link the Knights Arena website or something like
Yeah,
that.
that'll be close enough. So yeah, that's where you can go to
Yeah.
find that. I don't know, per last time, if you just search up DJ Cereal Sauce for any of my stuff, you can find me. The good news is that across all these platforms, I put a link tree in finally because I mean, I really do have like an absurd amount of links. I mean, it's like
Awesome.
YouTube, second YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Music, podcasts, albums that I release, my team's Twitch pages, our Discord page, all this stuff. So you can go in there and find those. I'm going to thank you one more time for coming on here because you were you kicked some major ass. And I don't know, maybe next time we'll be reviewing Forged in Fire.
Oh yeah, I would love to do that. Yeah, switch things up, man. Oh yeah, we'll open up we can open up the review with like some of your newest music, and then we can just like kind of go from there. Be like, I can do that.
Yeah, clearly. And now
like,
here's me doing it right there. I have a setup in the back.
Yeah, it's just like I have like an oil barrel that I filled with a bunch of charcoal, and we're gonna see how we can blacksmith right now.
Yeah, and that's what you can expect on the next episode of Eye for Talent.
Yeah.